Chapter 55-22 Met the red skeleton again. Yun Chujio was not angry because she did not have eggs to begin with. She said lightly, "Alright, since we are old acquaintances, let's meet. Don't you like young ladies the most? Here, I brought 3 for you." While Ding-er and the other 2 were stunned, a red skeleton appeared in front of everyone. "Those 2 young ladies are alright. Are you sure this is a young lady?" Although the red skeleton did not have eyes, Ding-er could still feel its intense disdain. Ding-er gritted his teeth in his heart. Damn bone spirit. He deserved to be scolded by the team leader. It would be better if the team leader broke him into pieces. Yun Chujio's gaze swept over the red skeleton. "Tell me, why did you come here from the prison of inheritance?" The red skeleton said proudly, "The purgatory in the Illusion Sky Banner is just a part of the prison of inheritance. Let me tell you this, the Illusion Sky Banner is just a courtyard for me. I'm not usually here. After all, this place is full of grievances. How can it be as carefree as the prison of inheritance? I just don't know which idiot used blood as a sacrifice to lure me here. Fuck, I'll teach him a lesson later." A part of the inheritance prison? She had previously felt that the red skeleton was hiding a lot of things from her. Now that she looked at it, it was as she had expected. The red skeleton glanced at Yun Chujio's deep gaze. It quickly said, "I didn't mean to hide it from you back then. This illusory sky banner was only recently refined by someone. Before it was refined, there was no way to open the purgatory inside." Yun Chujio did not believe his nonsense, but now was not the time to settle the score with him. It was better to pass the test first. "Alright, I don't have time to waste with you. Give me a few of the treasures in the purgatory and send us out." The red skeleton said helplessly, "It's not that I'm stingy, but there are no treasures in the purgatory. You'd better leave as soon as possible." Yun Chujio sneered and stepped forward to kick the red skeleton into pieces. "Do you have it or not?" Yes. "Little lady, please stop kicking it," the red skeleton said with a sobbing voice. She hated the person who sacrificed her blood in her heart. Damn it, if it wasn't for that idiot who summoned her, would she have to suffer such an undeserved disaster? This was great. Not only would it bleed, but this wretched girl also knew that the Illusion Sky Banner was related to it. In the future she might torture it whenever she had nothing to do. Why was its life so miserable? It subconsciously neglected one thing. It could have directly teleported Yun Chujio out without showing itself, but it was unwilling and wanted to take revenge. Who would have thought that Yun Chujio would see through it instead of taking revenge? The red skeleton quickly reassembled its parts. In a hurry, it even put its 2 arms on the wrong side. It was as comical as it could be. Ding-er saw it from the side and felt relieved. It deserved it. It deserved it. "Where's the treasure?" Yun Chujio asked coldly. The red skeleton kneeled on the ground with a plop. "Great aunt, this is only my courtyard. There really is no treasure here. If I lie to you, I will never grow an egg." Yun Chujio, as if it could grow that thing. Yun Chujio blinked her eyes. "It doesn't matter if you don't have any treasures. Aren't there other candidates here? You can scare them and ask them to hand over all their valuables. Well, split it 30-70. They'll split it 70-30. How about that?" Chapter 55-23 was too shameless. When Ding-er and the others heard Yun Chujio's words, they were all dumbfounded. It was too sinister. It was too shameless. It could actually come up with such a wicked idea. It was blatantly harming others for its own benefit. The red skeleton clearly did not expect Yun Chujio to come up with such a method. It was stunned at first, then it said excitedly, "Little great aunt, you are indeed my little great aunt. You are so smart. This plan is good, but isn't 30/70ths a little inappropriate?" Yun Chujio glanced at it. "How about 20/80ths? You are 20/80. The red skeleton, you are only 20. Forget it. 30/70ths it is. I will go and threaten them now. You wait here." Yun Chujio curled her lips. "If you dare to hide it, chimp." The thought that the red skeleton had just had instantly vanished. Could this wretched girl be able to read minds? She could guess what it was thinking. What the hell? The red skeleton quickly returned with a bunch of storage rings and said smugly, "That bunch of cowards. I called out all the storage rings with just a little scare. Little aunt, come, let's split the spoils. I can't wait." The corners of Ding-er and the other 2's mouths twitched. The only one who could talk about splitting the spoils so righteously was probably this skeleton. Yun Chujio did not have the time to look carefully at the things in the storage ring. She just gave some to the red skeleton according to the number and kept the rest in her storage ring. The red skeleton gritted its teeth and put away its small pile of things unwillingly. "I will think of a way to get the Illusion Sky Banner in the future. When that time comes, I can often come in and play with you. Aren't you very happy? Yun Chujio said with a smile. The red skeleton almost howled. Happy? It was not a sadist. However, when it thought about it, this wretched girl was just a weakling now. There was no way for it to get its hands on the illusion sky banner. What was there to be afraid of? Hence, it said against its heart, happy, I'm really too happy. About that, I'll send you guys out now. Don't delay the official business. Yun Chujio naturally knew what the red skeleton was thinking. However, she saw through it and did not say it out loud. She nodded and said, all right, send us out. The red skeleton immediately sent Yun Chujio and the others out of the illusion sky banner. Manager Shi and the others were chatting because they felt that it would take a few hours for someone to pass the test. After all, it was 5 tests. Therefore, when they saw Yun Chujio and the others being sent out, they were all stunned. Especially Manager Shi and Manager Yu, their faces were ashen. Altar Master Deng was very happy. He did not expect that Chojio, this little girl, was so lucky that she actually passed the test. He quickly ordered the people at the side to record the names of Yun Chujio and the other 3. The top 4 would definitely pass the test. Manager Shi's face was very gloomy. He was thinking of finding an excuse to invalidate the results of Yun Chujio and the other 3. At this moment, the candidates who were waiting for the test were sent out one after another. However, the candidates who were waiting for the test had a complicated look on their faces. Those who were ranked in the top 10 were better, but those who were ranked behind had a miserable look on their faces. Fuck, not only did they fail the test, they even put all their wealth into it. They were so unlucky. Could the mastermind be that Manager Shi? What assessment? He was clearly taking the opportunity to amass wealth. He was too fucking shameless. Chapter 55-24. Backlash. Altar Master Deng saw that more and more people were being sent out, so he said to Manager Shi, Manager Shi, the top 10 candidates have come out. You can release the rest of the candidates. Manager Shi said with a fake smile, okay, but before that, let me be blunt. The results of the first 4 candidates don't count. Altar Master Deng immediately frowned and said, what did you say? The 4 of them must have cheated. The reason is very simple. There is not a single stain on their clothes. Even their hair is not messy. Clearly they relied on some disgraceful means to pass the test, said Manager Shi with a sneer. Altar Master Deng thought that his temper was not bad, but he was also quite angry at Manager Shi's words. This was clearly a deliberate attempt to find fault with him. He really had nothing to say. At this moment, Yun Chujio's clear voice rang out, Manager Shi, you were the one who brought the illusion sky banner here. You were also the one who suggested the assessment method. Not to mention that we don't have the ability to do so, even if we really did use some kind of method, it's because you didn't think it through. What does it have to do with us? How dare you? How dare you contradict me? Men, take him away and kill him. Manager Shi said viciously. He was just a pig. How dare he argue with him? He was really courting death. Ding and the other 2 were so frightened that their faces turned ashen. They looked at Yun Chujio worriedly. However, there was no fear on Yun Chujio's face. She sneered and said, I'm just stating the facts. Previously, you removed Ding Er's qualification for promotion for no reason. Now you want to remove our results. No matter how I look at it, it looks like you're taking revenge for your own personal vendetta. Let me give you a piece of advice. People do what they do and the heavens are watching. Be careful not to suffer retribution. Manager Shi was so angry that his face turned red. He did not care about his status and immediately stood up from the judges' seats. He actually wanted to kill Yun Chujio with his own hands. The other judges looked at each other, but no one moved. On the other hand, anger appeared on Altar Master Deng's face. Just as he was about to stop him, the illusory sky banner that was floating in the air suddenly shot out a red light. The red light landed on Manager Shi's face, and almost instantly, Manager Shi turned into a pool of blood. At the same time, the candidates in the illusory sky banner were thrown to the ground, and the illusory sky banner fell to the ground. No one had expected such a turn of events. For a moment, no one made a sound and there was dead silence. How did the illusory sky banner kill Manager Shi? Did he really suffer retribution? In the end, Altar Master Deng was the first to react. He walked to the ground and put the illusory sky banner into his storage ring. This was an item of the Myriad City Alliance. Naturally, it could not fall into the hands of outsiders. He was silent for a moment. He cupped his fists at the other judges and said, previously Manager Shi used blood as a sacrificial seal. I reckon that he suffered a backlash. I will report this matter to the Alliance leader truthfully. If you all need to testify, please do not decline. The judges were clearly shocked by the strange scene in front of them. When they heard Altar Master Deng's words, they nodded their heads in agreement. They muttered in their hearts. No wonder there were rumors in the past that this illusory sky banner was very strange. Therefore, even though this thing was very extraordinary, it had always been left idle in the warehouse of the Myriad City Alliance. Manager, you had never thought that Manager Sure would die just like that. He was both afraid and unwilling. He took a step forward and said, Doc Lord, although Manager Sure unfortunately died, his previous decision should not be abandoned. Cho Jio and the other 3 should have been disqualified. Furthermore, Cho Jio contradicted Manager Sure and should have been executed. Chapter 55-25 Passed the test. Altar Master Deng's face immediately darkened. Cho Jio and the other 3 have low cultivations. It's impossible for them to tamper with the illusion sky banner. Manager Sure's words are simply nonsense. Manager Yu was furious when he saw that Altar Master Deng was determined to protect Yin Chujio and the other 3. However, he could only swallow his anger no matter how dissatisfied he was. He was furious in his heart. So what if she passed the assessment? When she reached the Divine Enlightenment continent, there would still be plenty of opportunities to kill her. Altar Master Deng did not bother with Manager Yu anymore. Instead, he announced the names of those who passed the assessment. When the other members of Group 9 saw the beaming faces of Ding Er, Shen Wu and Wei Ba, their intestines turned green with regret. Especially Yu Qi. She was not too far away from Yun Chujio when she was standing outside the first level of the purgatory. However, in order to avoid being implicated by Yun Chujio, she deliberately hid in the crowd. Now she naturally felt extremely regretful. However, what was the use of regretting? There was only a moment of opportunity. If she did not grasp it, she would lose it forever. Qin Shi did not expect Yun Chujio to actually pass the assessment. Her face could not help but look a little embarrassed. She was afraid that Yun Chujio would ridicule her. She lowered her eyebrows and looked down, trying her best to reduce her presence. Yun Chujio did not have the time to compete with her. She was now thinking about how to kill Manager Yu. She had never been a saint. Manager Yu had repeatedly targeted her. Was he still keeping her for the new year? However, those who had passed the assessment would soon follow the judges to the Divine Enlightenment continent. They did not have the time or opportunity to make a move. While Yun Chujio was pondering, the Gowei Batsao in her dantian began to flatter and act cutely. Yun Chujio slightly raised her eyebrows, and then a faint smile appeared on the corner of her mouth. Shen Wu happened to see her smile, and his heart immediately trembled. Cho Jio showed such a sinister smile again. Someone was going to be unlucky. Altar Master Deng said some more encouraging words, and then dismissed those who hadn't passed the assessment. He took Yun Chujio and the others to the Divine Enlightenment continent with the judges. After leaving the heavenly dock, many people looked back for a while, then turned around and continued on their way. From this moment on, they could be considered to have successfully ascended and officially become a member of the Divine Enlightenment continent. No one noticed that a small purple Gowei Batsao slipped out of Yun Chujio's sleeve. If they wanted to go to the Divine Enlightenment continent, they had to go through the Immemorial River, and if they wanted to go through the Immemorial River, they had to go to Jinsha Bay, which was 200 miles away from Baili. Altar Master Deng looked at the time and said, "We have to get to Jinsha Bay before nightfall and spend the night there. Well, cross the river tomorrow morning." Everyone knew how dangerous the Immemorial River was at night, so they had no objections and immediately sped up. Yun Chujio found that everyone was walking and she was puzzled. Even if it was forbidden to fly here, it would be good to get a few spirit beasts to carry them. How stingy. In fact, she didn't know that the climate of the Eternal River was cold. The ordinary spirit beasts of the Divine Enlightenment continent couldn't withstand the cold at all. Moreover, even if they could catch some cold demon beasts, this place wasn't too far from the Golden Sand Bay, so there was no need to go through so much trouble. Before sunset, everyone rushed to the Golden Sand Bay. There were a few houses on the bank of the Golden Sand Bay, which were specially reserved for the people crossing the river to stay. The night was peaceful. The next morning, everyone got up and hurried. They had to pass through the hard ice area before sunset and reach the water area of the Eternal River. With the spirit ship it would be much easier. After all, inside the spirit ship they could resist the cold even at night. Chapter 55-26. Ice shock. Just as everyone was hurrying on their way, Altar Master Deng received a message. His expression immediately became complicated. Someone beside him asked, "Altar Master Deng, what's wrong?" "Manager Yu was drunk last night. This morning he was found dead on his bed. He was strangled to death," Altar Master Deng said. On one hand he felt very relieved because of Manager Yu's death. On the other hand he felt a little relieved. Fortunately he was not in ascending heaven dock. Otherwise Manager Yu's death would inevitably be blamed on him. However, although Manager Yu's cultivation was not as good as his, it was not too bad. Even if he was drunk he should not have been strangled so easily. Who did it? The Goei Batsao and Yun Chujia's Dantian was showing off. Even if it could not speak, Yun Chujio knew that it was taking credit. Yun Chujio praised the Goei Batsao, but she also knew that the Goei Batsao was a fluke. If not for Manager Yu being so drunk, Goei Batsao might not have been able to find a chance to make a move in such a short time. Everyone discussed this matter for a while before putting it aside and rushing forward at the fastest speed. Although Jinsha Bay was much narrower than other rivers, it was still endless. Everyone did not dare to stop for fear of delaying the journey. It was better in the morning, but after the afternoon when their physical strength had decreased, the speed of their journey had slowed down a lot, and they all looked tired. Although Yun Chujio was a pervert, she was also a little tired. She cursed in her heart. If only the hard ice had broken, then they could directly take the boat. Just as she was thinking about it, a deafening crack sounded. Everyone was shocked. They looked up and saw that a huge crack had appeared on the ice in the distance, and the crack was still expanding. Yun Chujio, this had nothing to do with her. She was just thinking about it. At this moment, cracking sounds came from all directions. The faces of Altar Master Deng and the others suddenly turned pale, and they even began to tremble. Was over. They were doomed. At this moment, countless cracks appeared on the ice surface around them, and they were rapidly expanding like a spider web. A judge from the Academy of 10 Directions said dejectedly, "An ice quake. We have encountered an ice quake that is rarely seen in 1,000 years. We won't be able to survive." The others also had despair on their faces. Even if they had heaven-defying abilities, they could only wait for death on this vast ice surface. Coincidentally, they were now in the middle of the ice surface. Whether it was to return or head to the river water area, it was too late because the ice surface would completely collapse soon. Yun Chujio frowned and walked to Altar Master Deng's side and asked, "Altar Master Deng, what is an ice quake?" Altar Master Deng's face was pale as he said, "An ice quake occurs extremely occasionally in the Eternal River. However, the time interval is not fixed, but it only happens once every 1,000 years. I didn't expect that we were so unlucky to encounter an ice tremors today." Yun Chujio was speechless. What was the use of talking about this? She should talk about what an ice tremors was. Fortunately, Altar Master Deng finally got to the point. "Do you see the cracks on the ice? Soon, these immemorial ice, which is usually very hard, will break. At that time we will definitely die. And then?" Chapter 55:27. I have an idea. Yun Chujio took a deep breath. "I mean, what will happen after the ice breaks? Will the ancient ice sink to the bottom of the water? If we sink to the bottom of the water, can we escape by boat?" The judges of the Academy of 10 Directions glared at her. "Sink to the bottom of the water? Escape by boat? Are you a pig's brain?" Yun Chujio resisted the urge to fly into a rage and looked at Altar Master Deng. Fortunately, Altar Master Deng was more reliable. Although he looked panicked, he still explained, "After the surface of the ice breaks, it will not sink to the bottom of the water. Instead, it will roll violently in the water as if the water is boiling. Due to the impact of the ice, the spirit ship cannot maintain its balance and will be overturned when it enters the water. Moreover, the edges of the ice are very sharp. The spirit ship can't withstand it and will soon disintegrate." The judges of the 10 Directions Academy lamented, "Even the spirit ship can't withstand the edges of the ice. How can our bodies withstand it? Even if we are lucky enough to dive to the bottom, the temperature below is extremely terrifying. We will freeze to death. Not to mention there were also many ferocious sea beasts. We are doomed." Yun Chujio's eyes flashed. Others might die, but she would not die. She could just dive to the bottom directly. She had water-repellent beads and small flames. She would neither drown nor freeze to death. As for the sea beasts, because she was confident, Yun Chujio was much calmer than the others. She was thinking if there was a way to help the others escape. It was not that she was overflowing with sympathy, but if she was the only one who survived, it would not be easy to explain. Everyone stood on the spot in despair. It was useless to run, they could only wait for death. Some took out their voice transmission talismans and told their friends and relatives about their last words. Some cried in despair and some were still scared silly. Ding Er, Shenwu and Wei Ba surrounded Yun Chujio, their faces filled with despair and fear. Ding Er saw that Yun Chujio's expression was relatively calm compared to the others, and her dark eyes kept rolling around. A glimmer of hope rose in her heart. "Team leader, do you have a way to get us out of here?" Ding Er asked with a trembling voice. Qin Shi heard Ding Er's words and said in a crazed manner, "She's going to get us out of here? Stop dreaming. We won't be able to survive. We're dead." Yun Chujio ignored Ding Er and Qin Shi. She continued to stare at the continuously cracking ice surface, her eyes changing unpredictably. Ding Er saw the situation and did not ask any more questions. He also ignored the crazy Qin Shi. He prayed in his heart that Yun Chujio could think of a way. Yun Chujio thought for a long time, but she couldn't think of a good idea. In the face of a natural disaster, the power of humans was too insignificant. Although she could give these people some waterproof beads, they were basically useless. The low temperature below would also freeze them to death. Therefore it was best to stay on the spirit ship. It would be great if the spirit ship didn't capsize. Yun Chujio's eyes suddenly lit up. She had thought of a way. "Altar Master, I wonder how long this ice tremor will last?" Yun Chujio asked. 3 to 10 hours. When that time comes, the hard ice will reassemble. After Altar Master Deng finished speaking, he saw that Yun Chujio's face showed some joy. He could not help but sigh. Did this little girl think that she could endure it in a shorter time? They wouldn't be able to endure even an hour, let alone 3 to 10 hours. "Altar Master, I have an idea. Although it might not work, we can try," Yun Chujio said with a faint smile. Chapter 55:28. If there was no ice block. When the people around heard that Yun Chujio had a solution, they all focused their eyes on her. Even if many people did not believe that she had a solution, they still had a glimmer of hope in their hearts. What if she really did have a solution? If she could live, who would want to die? Altar Master Deng looked at Yun Chujio's smiling face and could not help but think of the day when the sea beasts besieged the city. A glimmer of hope rose in his heart and he asked with some urgency, "What solution?" "When the ice breaks, we will move to the spirit ship." Before Yun Chujio could finish her words, the judge from the Academy of 10 Directions said in a bad mood, "You are just trying to attract attention. I thought you had thought of a good idea. Even if you didn't say it, don't you think we know how to take a ship?" But what was the use? Although the spirit ship is strong, it can't withstand the sharp edges of the ice. At most it will fall apart in an hour. Moreover, when the surface of the water tumbles and the ice hits it, the spirit ship will capsize in an instant. Shut the fuck up. If you want to live, then listen to me. If you don't want to listen, then get lost. Yun Chujio had endured him for a long time and finally flew into a rage. The judge's face was livid with anger. Just as he was about to fly into a rage, Altar Master Deng tried to smooth things over. "Superintendent Zhang, the situation is critical now. You should listen to Chojio first." Superintendent Zhang snorted coldly and did not say anything else. He did not have to fight with a little girl. It was just that this little girl really did not know the immensity of heaven and earth. He wanted to hear what she could do. Seeing that he was silent, Yun Chujio said, "There is only one thing we need to worry about when we move to the ship, and that is the impact of ice. If there is no ice impact, the spirit ship will not be damaged. If there is no ice impact, the spirit ship will not capsize. So we just need to ensure that the ice does not get close to the spirit ship." Superintendent Zhang could not help but say, "That's easy for you to say. The ice won't listen to you. If you say that you won't let them get close, then they won't get close?" Yun Chujio glanced at him. "They won't listen to me, but just think of a way to make them listen to me feasible." They had at least grasped a life-saving straw. Even Superintendent Zhang was delighted. He had completely. Superintendent Zhang curled his lips. He was about to speak when he heard Yun Chujio continue, "We will place some things around the spirit ship that are large in size, light in weight, and can float on the surface of the water. This will help us reduce the force of the impact of the ice. Also, don't forget that we still have spirit beasts. Although they are not enough to block the hard ice, it is still possible to slightly change the direction of the hard ice or slow down the impact. The ice shock will only last for 10 to 10 hours. As long as we work together, we can completely endure it." Everyone was stunned at first, then revealed a happy expression. Although they were not sure whether Yun Chujio's method was feasible, they had at least grasped a life-saving straw. Even Superintendent Zhang was delighted. He had completely forgotten that he was still targeting Yun Chujio just now. Everyone hurriedly searched the storage ring for things that met the conditions that Yun Chujio had mentioned. The more people, the more power. They really did find some things like light snow, wood, and giant calabashes. At this time, the ice surface around them had already begun to crack. There was a faint rumbling sound coming from under the ice surface. It was likely that it would soon start to churn. Yun Chujio's gaze deepened. We cannot wait passively. Otherwise, the hard ice beneath our feet would suddenly crack, and we might fall into the water if we are not careful for a moment. Dock Master, later, when there is enough time to place the spirit ship on the surface of the water, you can release the spirit ship. It is safer for us to move it to the ship. Chapter 55:29 Added insult to injury. Altar Master Deng had no other choice at the moment. He gritted his teeth and decided to listen to Yun Chujia's arrangements. After a while, when the river ahead began to gush out, Altar Master Deng released the spirit ship, and everyone jumped onto the spirit ship. After everyone boarded the ship, they followed Yun Chujia's instructions and threw the floating objects near the spirit ship. Then they paid close attention to the situation around them. The ice surface had not completely shattered yet, so it was not particularly dangerous at the moment. There was no situation like boiling water. Even so, everyone's heart was still in their throats as they stared at the ice surface with full vigilance. After a quarter of an hour, the entire water surface was like boiling water, setting off huge waves. The broken pieces of ice began to drift crazily, colliding with each other. Everyone's eardrums were buzzing with the sound of countless collisions. The spirit ship was thrown up and down by the waves. If it wasn't for the fact that this spirit ship was specially made, these waves would be enough to jolt it into pieces. At this time, there were already pieces of ice crashing towards the spirit ship. Yun Chujio shouted loudly, "What are you standing there for? Release the spirit beast and change the direction of the ice quickly." The people who were already scared silly finally regained their senses and hurriedly released the spirit beast. Just as Yun Chujio had said, although the ice blocks were very big and their weight was also very shocking, they were still floating in the water, so the spirit beast could still change the direction of the ice blocks. Although other than the water spirit roots, the other spirit beasts with spirit roots were limited in the water, but the more people there were, the more strength they had. From the looks of it, they could still hold on. Seeing that the situation was still under control, Yun Chujio did not release Goei Batsao. She stood on the deck and commanded everyone to protect the spirit ship from the impact of the ice. As time passed, everyone's nervous mood slightly relaxed. As long as they could hold on until the end of the ice tremor, although they might encounter extreme cold weather, it was still much better than the current situation. At this moment, Wu Yun suddenly appeared in the sky. The rolling momentum of the dark clouds was even more terrifying than the current wind and waves. Everyone's heart tightened. Could it be that it was going to rain? Ever since records began, it did not seem to rain in this ancient river. Why was it going to rain now? Why were all these unlucky things caught up by them? They were simply extremely unlucky. However, when they thought about it, although the rain was difficult to deal with, it was not to the point where their lives were in danger. If they were willing to let it rain, then so be it. They could only accept it. However, they soon realized that they were wrong. Extremely wrong. Because there was a hole in the sky, a bolt of purple heavenly lightning descended from the sky and headed straight for their spirit ship. The thick purple heavenly lightning shocked everyone. Purple heavenly lightning? Fortunately, Yun Chujio shouted from the side, "Spirit beast." Everyone subconsciously commanded the spirit beast to protect the spirit ship. Even so, the mast of the spirit ship was still broken. Everyone's heart immediately surged with endless despair. Originally, there was not much hope for survival, but now they were actually struck by lightning again. This was because they were afraid that they would not die. What sin did they commit to deserve such a punishment? At this moment, the deck was already filled with whales. Everyone's hearts were as dead as ash. It was over. They definitely wouldn't survive. No one noticed that at this moment Yun Chujia's eyes were not filled with fear. Instead, they were filled with surprise and joy. Oh my! Which big sister angel was kind-hearted? Chapter 55:30 Using one's body to attract the lightning. Hei Shinjio suppressed the joy in her heart and held back the tears of happiness in her eyes. She said, "Altar Master, there's no other way now. I'm trying to attract the heavenly lightning away. If I'm lucky enough to succeed, everyone will be saved." Altar Master Deng said in shock, "What? You want to attract the heavenly lightning away? Let's not talk about whether you can attract it away or not. Even if you can, you will definitely die. Do you want to die?" Yun Chujio bit her lips. Otherwise, she was afraid that she would laugh out loud. She simply lowered her head and said, "Altar Master, although we have only known each other for a short time, I have always treated you as my elder. If it wasn't for you, I might have already been killed by Manager Sure. Moreover, the people on the ship are also my classmates in a sense. All the judges are my teachers. If sacrificing my life can save everyone, I am willing. Time is of the essence. Don't say anything else." We will meet again in the next life. Hey Shinjo jumped off the spiritual boat and landed on a piece of floating ice. She pointed at the sky and cursed, "Listen up, you bastards. Come and chop me if you can. Otherwise, I will curse your ancestors. What's the point of chopping that broken boat? Come and chop me. If you admit defeat, you will be my grandsons. If you don't chop me to death today, you'll be the shame of the heavenly thunder world. You'll be just a small fry that can't stand up to the public." A bolt of heavenly lightning was already heading towards the spirit ship. Hearing Yunchujio's curses, it forcefully turned around and hacked towards Yunchujio. Yunchujio did her best to leap towards the floating ice at the side. The heavenly lightning struck the floating ice from before, and the huge floating ice was instantly split into two halves. When Yunchujio caught a glimpse of it, her heart couldn't help but beat faster. Oh my, the heavenly lightning in the divine enlightenment continent seemed to be much more powerful than the heavenly lightning in the heavy cloud continent. However, this fellow was very confident. If she jumped a few more times, she would dive into the water. No matter how powerful the heavenly lightning was, it wouldn't be able to kill her. Therefore, after she jumped a few times on the ice floe, she was struck by a heavenly lightning and dissipated into the cracks of the ice floe. Everyone on the spirit ship witnessed the entire process, and their faces were filled with gratitude and sadness. Altar Master Deng had mixed feelings in his heart. Although he had some intention to help Yunchujio, it was under the premise that it did not involve his own interests. He did not expect this little girl to be willing to sacrifice her own life to save him. It really made him feel both moved and guilty. Superintendent Zhang's face was filled with shame. He had reprimanded the little girl several times before, but reality proved that he had underestimated her. She had really thought of a way to save everyone's lives. Now she had sacrificed herself for the sake of everyone's safety. It really made him feel ashamed. The rest of the judges were also touched. The people at the heavenly dock were even more touched. Ding-er, Shinwu and Wei Ba were already crying out loud. Even Qinshi had mixed feelings. She didn't expect Cho Jio to sacrifice herself to save them. She was simply too stupid. Was there such a stupid person in this world? If she had known earlier that she was so kind to the point of being stupid, she wouldn't have bothered with her. Unfortunately, she was already dead. It was useless to say all this. However, the dark cloud hadn't dispersed yet. It wouldn't continue to cleave down, right? Many people had the same thoughts as Qinshi. The dark cloud in the sky had no intention of dissipating. If it continued to cleave down, Cho Jio's sacrifice would be in vain. Chapter 55:31 Are you really still alive? Just as everyone was worried, they were pleasantly surprised to find that the heavenly lightning struck toward the water not far away, but it did not strike their spirit ship again. Moreover, as the heavenly lightning continued to strike down, the floating ice around them was cut into countless pieces, which made it more convenient for them to protect the spirit ship. 4 hours later, the ice began to gather and then began to freeze again. While everyone was delighted, they noticed that Wu Yun in the sky shook violently a few times and then floated away as if he was exasperated. Everyone felt that they must have seen wrongly. Putting aside whether Wu Yun would have human emotions, even if he did, as someone who held the power of life and death, Wu Yun would not be exasperated. It was already midnight, and the temperature on the ice was frighteningly low. Therefore, everyone decided to hide inside the spirit ship. Although the spirit ship might be frozen, it was still better than being frozen to death. After daybreak, they would first return to Jinsha Bay to repair themselves. At that time, they would think of a way to get the spirit ship out. Everyone was naturally very excited because they had saved their lives. However, Altar Master Deng and the others could not help but sigh when they thought of Yunchujio who had sacrificed herself for them. That night, everyone almost did not sleep. They waited until the sun rose and the temperature was slightly higher before they got off the spirit ship and returned to Golden Sand Bay. When they arrived at Golden Sand Bay, the Golden Sand Bay guards were very excited. Altar Master, everyone, it's great that all of you are fine. Altar Master Deng and the others were not in the mood to say anything and entered Golden Sand Bay. Golden Sand Bay was only a temporary station, so it was not too big. Everyone was cold and tired, so they went straight to the backyard to rest. As soon as they reached the backyard, the door of a room was pushed open, and a person covered in cotton cloth climbed out. It should be a person, right? The cotton cloth was originally white, but now it was dyed red with blood. They could only vaguely see that it was a human shape, only a pair of eyes were exposed. At this moment, 2 guards came out from the house. It seemed that they wanted to bring that person back into the house, but that person let out a hoarse voice. Altar Master Deng, you're still alive? Altar Master Deng and the others trembled. This voice, could she be Cho Jio? Ding Er, Shenwu and Wei Ba had already run over. Team leader, is the team leader you? You're still alive? 2 lines of clear tears instantly flowed from that person's eyes. Are you guys really still alive? That's great, that person fainted before he could finish his words. Everyone had already confirmed that the person wrapped like a cocoon was Chojio. She was actually not dead? Moreover, she had appeared in Golden Sand Bay. What was going on? Just as everyone was puzzled, a guard clicked his tongue and said, "What's going on? 2 hours ago we heard a loud sound. When we came out to check, we found that this person had smashed into the city gate. TSK, that was really tragic. Her entire body was covered in blood, and her clothes and wounds were frozen together. If it wasn't for the fact that her eyes could still move, we would have thought that she was a dead person. We saw that the clothes on her body were the clothes of Ascending Heaven Doc, so we carried her inside. Since we didn't have a woman here and her clothes were frozen, we had no choice but to use a cotton cloth to bandage her briefly." Altar Master Deng did not have the patience to continue listening and roared, "Are they all dead? Hurry up and carry Chojio inside so that she can be treated properly." Chapter 55-32. Compassion for the world. Altar Master Deng only had one thought. No matter how Chojio got to Jinshabei, the most important thing now was to keep her alive. Everyone else had the same thought. This Chojio was already in such a state, but the first thing she said was, "It's great that you're still alive." What kind of compassion was this? Even the masters of the 10,000 Buddha's sacred hall might not be as compassionate as her. What a kind and good girl. If such a good girl died, it would be a loss to the divine enlightenment continent. However, everyone was not good at medicine, so they could only take out some pills to stop the bleeding and feed them to Yin Chujio. Altar Master Deng quickly informed Heaven's Doc to send a doctor over. A moment later, Yin Chujio slowly woke up and then closed her eyes. A moment later, she opened them again and muttered, "I'm not dreaming? Everyone is not dead?" When everyone saw this, they could not help but feel even more touched. Ding Er and the others were already crying. How could there be such a kind person in this world? It was really touching. While Ding Er was crying, she also felt that something was not right. This ugly Jiao even cheated the red skeleton inside the illusion sky banner. No matter how she looked at it, she did not look like such a kind person. However, everything in front of her was real. She had really seen a ghost. Superintendent Zhang said with a face full of shame, "Little girl, we are all still alive. This time it's all thanks to you." Altar Master Deng also said from the side, "Yes, we are all still alive. Don't worry, I will definitely cure you." Yun Chujia's eyes suddenly shone like the stars. "Really? We are really still alive. That's great." Everyone wanted to ask her why she had come to Jinshabei, but seeing her like this, they had to endure it. It was better to wait until her injuries were better before asking. At this time, Yun Chujio said with some difficulty, "Altar Master Deng, can you guys leave for a while? I'll get Sister Ding Er to help me change my clothes and apply some medicine on my wounds." Altar Master Deng naturally would not refuse. He quickly brought everyone out and only Ding Er was left in the room. Shenwu and Wei Ba wanted to stay as well. Wei Ba was stunned when she saw Yun Chujio winking at her. She immediately dragged Shenwu, who was crying like a cat, out of the house. She dragged Shenwu to the door of the house. She seemed to be worried about Yun Chujio's injuries and could not bear to leave. In fact, she was standing at the door to prevent anyone from entering the house. Yun Chujio heard Shenwu's low sobs, and the corner of her mouth curled under the cotton cloth. Then she said to Ding Er, "Take off the cotton cloth on my body. These idiots wrapped it so tightly that I almost couldn't breathe." Ding Er, how did this energetic look like someone who was about to die? Although she was puzzled, she quickly took off the cotton cloth on Yun Chujio's body. She saw that Yun Chujio's dress was covered in blood, and it looked exceptionally terrifying. Most importantly, where was her hair? Where were her eyebrows? Why did she become bald? Just as she was stunned, Yun Chujio glared at her fiercely. "Turn around, I want to change my clothes." Ding Er subconsciously turned around and heard the rustling sound of changing clothes behind her. He thought to himself, that's not right. She was injured so badly, but she could still change her clothes by herself? Alright, turn around. When Ding Er turned around, Yun Chujio had already put away the cotton and dirty clothes. Lying on the bed, she crossed her legs and asked, "Tell me about what happened after I bravely lured away the heavenly lightning." Ding Er. Chapter 55-33 was even more cruel to her. Ding Er was dumbfounded. Didn't they say that she was seriously injured? Didn't they say that she was going to die soon? She had never heard of anyone who was going to die who had the time to cross their legs. And she had never heard of anyone who was seriously injured who had the time to ask about her great achievements. However, she thought of a possibility. Could it be that she was going to die? She opened her mouth and asked, "Team leader, are you okay?" Yun Chujio rolled her eyes. "What can happen to me? Hurry up and tell me. Otherwise, the doctor who will treat my injuries will be here soon." Ding suppressed the shock in his heart and told her everything. He also described everyone's reactions. Yun Chujio narrowed her eyes, feeling very satisfied. It seemed that the effect of her sacrificing herself to save others this time was quite good. If she used it properly, her journey to the divine enlightenment continent would be much smoother. After being struck by the heavenly lightning, she deliberately fell into the water and then dived to the bottom of the water. Although the heavenly lightning kept striking her, the power of the lightning on her body was greatly weakened due to the weakening of the floating ice in the river water. She absorbed all the power of the heavenly lightning effortlessly. It was simply wonderful. Although her cultivation stopped at the peak of the 9th level of Spirit Extinguisher, she was still very satisfied. After all, one could not be too greedy. This fellow thought about it. If she directly returned to the spirit ship, she really could not come up with a convincing explanation. She pondered for a moment. Since the spirit ship was damaged, everyone would definitely return to Golden Sand Bay to repair it. She climbed out of the crack before the ice completely froze and then staged a good show herself. However, this good show had just been put on for the first half of the show. The second half of the show would soon start. This guy thought for a moment. Under Ding Er's horrified gaze, he gritted his teeth and cut his arm and face a few times. Then he rubbed the blood stains on the quilt in the corner of his mouth. He curled the corner of his mouth and said to Ding, "Later, the doctor will come. Do you know what to say?" Ding was already scared silly. He mumbled, "No, I don't know." Yun Chujio rolled her eyes and gave him a few instructions. Ding nodded in a daze. His gaze landed on Yun Chujio's clothes that had been dyed red again, and he couldn't help but shiver. This Chojio was ruthless to others, but she was even more ruthless to herself. Such a ruthless character would definitely become someone superior. In the future, no matter what she said, she would cling onto her thigh tightly and not let go. An hour later, the sky-reaching Doc's doctor arrived. Ding was stunned to see that Hei Xinjiu, who was originally glowing red, was now as pale as death. Her forehead was also covered with fine beads of sweat, coupled with the blood stains at the corner of her mouth. No matter how he looked at it, she looked like she was about to die. After the doctor checked Yun Chujio's pulse, he also wanted to check the injuries on Yun Chujio's body. Ding wiped his tears and said, "Doctor, there are almost no good places on the team leader's body. Her clothes and flesh are almost stuck together. I have already helped the team leader with the external wound medicine. If you open her clothes again, it will inevitably hurt again. You can directly prescribe some external medicine. I will apply it again in a while." The doctor did not insist. Firstly, Ding Er's words were reasonable. Secondly, it was not convenient for the girl in front of him. Therefore he sighed and said, "The external injuries are not serious. She will recover after applying the medicine for a few days. The main reason is that her meridians are severely damaged and the cold air has entered her body. If the root of the illness is left behind, it may affect her future cultivation." When Altar Master Deng and the others heard this, they felt even more guilty. If it was not for saving them, this little girl would not have suffered such a disaster. They had let her down. Chapter 55-34 Chojio had an epiphany. If you need any medicinal pills or herbs, just say the word. You have to treat her no matter what, Altar Master Deng said in a deep voice. The others also chimed in, asking the physician to do his best to treat Yun Chujio and not to affect her future cultivation. The physician sighed. "Altar Master, it's not that I haven't tried my best. It's just that this lattice injuries are too severe and my ability is limited. I can only use pills to suppress the cold chi in her body temporarily. If I want to completely eradicate and repair her meridians, he'll have to find someone else." Altar Master Deng nodded. "Just try your best. After the spirit ship is repaired, he'll bring the little girl to the divine enlightenment continent and find someone to treat her properly." Hei Xinjiu could not help but feel a little annoyed. She had played too much. If she had known this would happen, she would not have let Go Wei Butsao cause such a serious injury. But fortunately she had a backup plan. The physician took out some pills and handed them to Ding Er. After instructing him on how to take them, he left. Although the others were full of questions, they didn't ask much when they saw Yun Chujio's pale face. After all, there was still time in the future. It wasn't too late to ask after she was better. As soon as everyone left, Ding-er saw the half-dead Hei Shinjio stretch lazily before taking out a meat bun and eating it. Ding-er, Hei Shinjio threw a few meat buns to Ding-er, blinked her eyes and whispered a few words to Ding-er. Ding-er's eyes were wide open, and his mouth was wide enough to fit a meat bun. He could not believe what he had just heard and stuttered, You, aren't you afraid that you're going too far and that there's no way to end this? Yun Chujio bared her little white teeth. Don't worry, no one will doubt such a kind and good girl like me. You've performed well this time, be obedient, and it'll bring you to fly with me. Ding-er thought to himself, you can't not bring me, I've already made up my mind to hug your thigh. Yun Chujio asked Ding-er to take out the ointment and shake it to cover the fragrance of the meat buns. 2 hours later, this guy sat up cross-legged and gestured at Ding-er with his mouth. Ding-er pinched his thigh and shouted while running out, Team leader has had an epiphany. Team leader has had an epiphany. Shen Wu and Wei Ba, who were guarding the door, were shocked. They did not know what was going on in the room. They pulled Ding-er and asked, What did you say? Ding-er resisted the urge to roll his eyes and shouted in surprise, The team leader had an epiphany. Shen Wu and Wei Ba were both surprised and happy. They rushed into the house and saw Yun Chujio sitting cross-legged on the bed. There was a faint halo around her body, and her pale face had become rosy. Shen Wu was completely dumbfounded. She really thought that Yun Chujio was seriously injured before. Now that she saw Yun Chujio had an epiphany, she was so happy that she cried. Wei Ba, who was standing at the side, had guessed a little, but she did not say anything. She pretended to have the same expression as Shen Wu. Jinshabei was not big to begin with. In addition to Ding-er's loud voice, it did not take long for Altar Master Deng and the others to gather around. What did you say? Altar Master Deng asked in disbelief. Altar Master, the team leader had already fallen into a deep sleep. She suddenly sat up and seemed to be in a daze. I thought that she had been frightened previously. I didn't expect that she would start meditating with her legs crossed. Then there was a faint glow on her body. I finally understood that she had had an epiphany. The heavens really have eyes. Our team leader is a good person who has good karma. Ding-er said with a sobbing tone. Chapter 55-35 Good Karma. Altar Master Deng and the others were both surprised and happy when they heard that. In order to prevent Yun Chujio from having an epiphany, Altar Master Deng and the others only peeked inside the door a few times and did not enter the house. When they saw that Yun Chujio was indeed sitting cross-legged and meditating just like Ding-er had said, and there was a faint halo surrounding her body, they immediately believed it without a doubt. 2 hours later, the light on Yun Chujio's body shone brightly. She had actually broken through. 7th level Spirit Extinguisher, 8th level Spirit Extinguisher, 9th level Spirit Extinguisher. Heavens, she had actually broken through 3 levels in one go. Wasn't this an epiphany? Everyone sighed. As expected, the heavens are fair. Miss Chojio sacrificed herself to save others. Naturally, the heavens will not mistreat her. Now it seems that not only has her injuries healed, she even broke through 3 levels in one go. That's right. I thought that Lady Chojio had a narrow escape this time. I didn't expect that not only was she safe and sound, but she had also gotten a blessing in disguise. Therefore, a person has to do good deeds and good deeds are rewarded. A kind and good lady like Chojio should have such good luck. Lady Chojio is the kindest lady I've ever met in my life. Ding-er heard everyone's discussion and resisted the urge to roll his eyes. Sooner or later, all of you will know how ignorant you are. At this time, Yun Chujio had already opened her eyes. She raised her arm and moved her legs. Then she said happily, My injuries are all healed? I also broke through? Am I dreaming? Altar Master Deng smiled and said, Of course I'm not dreaming. This is all an epiphany. What did you comprehend just now? Yun Chujio said a little embarrassedly, It's nothing. I just suddenly felt that something in my head suddenly opened up. I seem to have become indifferent to life and death. Superintendent Zhang of the Academy of 10 Directions stroked his beard and said, That's not strange. The little girl sacrificed herself to save others and experienced this life and death catastrophe. Naturally, she has become indifferent to life and death. This is also her good fortune. The others also sighed. Altar Master Deng had specially asked the doctor to come over and check Yun Chujio's pulse. The doctor's eyes widened in disbelief. She has really recovered. This is really something to congratulate. When everyone heard this, they immediately believed Yun Chujio's epiphany. Ding-er's heart was filled with pity for these people. These people had been fooled by Chojio. If one day they found out the truth, they would probably die of anger, right? When everyone saw that Yun Chujio had recovered, Altar Master Deng asked everyone's questions. Chojio, quickly tell us what happened. Weren't you struck by lightning into the water? How did you end up in Jinsha Bay? Yun Chujio scratched her head and then her expression froze. She took out a mirror and was stunned on the spot. Only then did everyone realize that Yun Chujio's hair and eyebrows were gone. They immediately felt guilty. This was a huge blow to a little girl. After a long while, Yun Chujio's lips curled into a stiff smile. No, it's nothing without hair. It's cool. Everyone felt even more guilty. This ugly ninth lady was too kind. She must have said this because she was afraid that they would feel guilty. How could there be such a kind and good lady in the world? This time even Dinger was fooled. He thought that Yun Chujio was pretending to be strong. After all, even a tough woman like her cherished her hair very much. The doctor took out a small porcelain jar and said, "Little girl, don't be too sad. This ointment has hair growth effects. If you apply it on your scalp, your hair will grow out very quickly." Chapter 5536 turned out to be fishing for a big fish. Yun Chujio thanked her profusely and took the small porcelain jar. She took a deep breath and said, "That day I was not struck by lightning. Instead, I accidentally fell into a crack in the hard ice. Fortunately, I had a few waterproof beads on me, but it was too cold in the water. Even if I used my spiritual power to protect myself, my body was still cut by the sharp edges of the hard ice. Moreover, the temperature of the water was too low and I was almost frozen stiff. Just when I thought that I would definitely die, I didn't expect to be entangled by a giant ice wristband." A giant ice wristband? Everyone's heart immediately jumped to their throats. Was this an attack from a sea beast? I was about to take out my dagger to cut that giant ice wristband, but I discovered that the owner of the giant ice wristband was actually the giant ice wristband that I encountered during the beast tide. At that time, I was scared half to death, thinking that it was going to eat me. In addition to the cold and injuries on my body, my head buzzed and I actually fainted. By the time I regained consciousness, it was already time for the Golden Sand Bay guards to discover me. As for what happened in the middle, I have no idea. Perhaps it was the giant ice wristband that saved me, or perhaps something else happened in the middle, Yun Chujio said with some confusion. When everyone heard this, they immediately started discussing all kinds of possibilities. In the end, they came up with a truth that everyone agreed on. Giant ice wristband had helped Chojio get rid of its enemy, Manager Yu of Thousandwood Workshop, in return, so it had saved Chojio this time. Although the underwater temperature was extremely low, the sea beasts naturally had ways to keep them warm. That was how they had saved Chojio's life. As for why Chojio had fallen on the city gate previously, it must have been because Giant Ice Wristband had thrown her out of the air vent. After all, Giant Ice Wristband's tentacles were very long. Although it was a little strenuous, it could still be done. Although the truth was flawed, Chojio had been unconscious at that time, so it was understandable that she didn't know the process. Besides, the process wasn't important. The most important thing was that they and Chojio were fine. Thus, the matter was put behind them. Of course, there were still repercussions. For example, "Little girl, what are your plans for the Divine Inspiration Continent? Why don't I use some connections to help you find a job in the Myriad City Alliance?" "Little girl, although our Ironblood Massacre Alliance is all about fighting and killing, we also have some jobs that are responsible for logistics. If you are interested, I can recommend you." "Little girl, although your aptitude is average and your cultivation is really low, I can use some connections to let you become an audit student at the 10 Directions Academy. Are you interested?" "Little girl, our Divine Enlightenment Academy also has an audit student slot. Logically speaking, you need to pay a huge amount of spirit stones to have such an opportunity. However, I can help you get a slot. Would you consider it?" Ding Er's face was filled with envy, jealousy, and no hatred. The main thing was, he did not dare to hate. She thought to herself, no wonder Chojio wanted to make such a scene. It turned out that he wanted to fish for a big fish. Although they were now quasi-residents of the Divine Enlightenment Continent, they were at the bottom of the hierarchy in the Divine Enlightenment Continent. The Alliance of 10,000 Cities, the Ironblood Alliance, the 10 Directions Academy, and the Divine Enlightenment Academy that these people were talking about were all at the top of the Divine Enlightenment Continent. They were not qualified to enter at all, and they were not even qualified to be servants. But now these forces had opened their doors to Chojio. What kind of dogshit luck was this? Chapter 5537 Could money be used to solve a problem? Yun Chujio politely thanked these people for extending an olive branch. She said that she would think about it, but she did not agree immediately. Ding Er's heart ached when he saw this. She actually had to think about such a great opportunity that she had dreamed of. Comparing people was so infuriating. Shinjo was in a good mood. She had sacrificed herself for others to cover up the fact that she was not afraid of being struck by lightning. She did not expect to become a good girl that everyone praised by accident. After the epiphany, her breakthrough had a reason to see the light. Most importantly, she could also choose a shelter. After all, the Divine Enlightenment continent was the lair of the God-Devil Temple. Although she had not been exposed yet, she would be exposed sooner or later. It was necessary to have a shelter. This was a great deal. She was so impressed with herself. How could she be so smart? How could she be so smart? She was too smart to be human. This guy was narcissistic for a while, and then he began to wonder where he was going. She was not very familiar with these forces, and Dinger did not know much about them. After all, she had only heard about the things that she knew. Since the information was limited, she would just use the method of elimination. First of all, she could not go to the Alliance of 10,000 Cities no matter what. It was said that the two dead manager you had a backer. If she went to the Alliance of 10,000 Cities, wouldn't she be looking for trouble for herself? It was said that the Ironblood Alliance often took on dangerous missions. Even if it was a logistical task, she might have to go on expeditions with the team sometimes. She was now a weak person, and if she was not careful, she would lose her life, therefore she could not go. Then, there were only the 10 Directions Academy and the Divine Revelation Academy. It was said that both of them were equally famous, but which one should she go to? To be honest, this fellow was tired of going to the academy. It was really boring to be able to easily get first place every time. However, she had to admit that entering the academy was her best choice at the moment. She could have a shelter and learn some useful things. The silly girls in the spiritual beast bags looked at each other. Where did their black-hearted master get his confidence from? And he got the first place so easily? She was only an audit student this time. She was not even an official student. How could she get the first place? Of course, these silly girls had learned their lesson. Only a fool would tell the truth. Yun Chujia's gaze fell on Ding Er. Then she thought of Shenwu and Wei Ba at the door. She had a plan in her heart. She met with Superintendent Zhang of the Divine Enlightenment Academy and Superintendent Zhang of the 10 Directions Academy respectively. She suggested that Ding Er and the other two should enter the academy together with her, even if it meant spending some spirit stones. Superintendent Zhang was very reluctant to reject Yin Chujia's request. Little girl, to be honest, apart from a huge donation, the auditing students of the Divine Enlightenment Academy also need to have a certain background. Making an exception to accept you is already my greatest authority. Superintendent Zhang hesitated for a moment. Normally, each person has to pay 20 million upper-grade spirit stones and have a deep background. The best I can do is to help them create a fake background, but the spirit stones have to be paid in full. Yun Chujio pretended to hesitate for a moment and then said, he'll let them think of a way to deal with the spirit stones. Thank you, Superintendent Zhang. If they need me in the future, I won't refuse. Although Superintendent Zhang had targeted her at the beginning, it was just a verbal argument. Later, he took the initiative to express his goodwill, which meant that this person was still trustworthy. As for 20 million upper-grade spiritual stones per person, could a matter that could be solved with money be considered a problem? Chapter 5538, Superintendent Zhang heard Yun Chujio say this and knew that she had chosen the 10 Directions Academy. He was immediately very happy. This little girl had accepted his favor and settled the karma. It was also to prevent him from having inner demons in his cultivation in the future. This result could not be better. Moreover, he truly felt that the little girl in front of him was very good. Whether it was her intelligence and calmness during the ice shock or her self-sacrifice later on, it all showed that this little girl was extraordinary. Even if her aptitude was a little lower and her cultivation was a little lower, she might have some opportunity to soar to the sky in the future. It was always good to form a good relationship with her. After Superintendent Zhang left, Yun Chujio told Ding Er and the others about what had happened. Ding Er could not believe his ears. Team leader, what did you say? I can also enter the 10 Directions Academy? Did I hear wrongly? Is what you said true? Are you really bringing us along? Shenwu and Wei Ba were also pleasantly surprised. However, the three of them quickly frowned. The reason was very simple. They lacked money. Although they were once the favored sons of heaven and had brought a lot of spirit stones with them, but 20 million? That was too much. They had been so engrossed in cultivation that both their families and sects would give them the best resources, so they would not be distracted by mundane tasks like spirit stones. When they ascended, they were already so excited that they would not even think about bringing more spirit stones. Hence it was a little awkward now. It was the first time that they were stumped by spirit stones. Since they had already ascended, it would not be easy for them to return to their original continent. Hence, the road back to their original continent was basically blocked. The three of them were so regretful that their intestines turned green. If they had known this would happen, they would have brought more spirit stones over no matter what. However, what was the point of saying all this now? Yun Chujio smiled as she looked at the three of them who were burning with anxiety. She bared her little white teeth and said, "You guys don't have it, but I do. Have you forgotten that I have robbed a lot of storage rings?" Ding-er and the rest were immediately delighted. That's right. Previously, Chojio and the Red Skeleton had dug a lot of storage rings for those candidates. There would definitely be a large number of spirit stones inside. Shenwu hurriedly said, "Team leader, lend me some spirit stones first. I will definitely repay it twice in the future." Ding-er and Weiba also expressed their stance and then looked at Yun Chujio with eager eyes. "No problem. Come, put your fingerprint on the loan slip and I will lend you the money." Yun Chujio smiled amiably, but for some reason Ding-er and the others felt a cold breeze behind their backs. They felt that she was digging a hole, and it was a hole that would last for thousands of years. However, they had no other choice now. Besides, they had already decided to cling onto Yun Chujio's thigh long ago, so it was fine to dig a hole. Thus, the three of them put their fingerprint on the loan slip that Yun Chujio had written. Yun Chujio looked at it and put it away in satisfaction. This fellow was secretly happy. Loan slip. This was a contract to sell one's body. After Yun Chujio put away the loan slip, she said, "Leave the spirit stones with me first. When we reach the 10 Directions Academy, I will pay for you." The three of them didn't doubt him and immediately nodded in agreement. 10 days later, the spirit ship was repaired, and everyone set off for the Divine Enlightenment continent again. On the way, they were all trembling in fear, afraid that something bad would happen to them again. However, nothing unusual happened this time, and they successfully arrived at the other side of the Eternal River. The moment they stepped on the river bank, they felt relieved. Altar Master Deng took them to the city closest to the Eternal River, the border city, and handed over the identity documents for Yun Chujio and the others. Chapter 55-39, Yan Qingqing. Everyone began to register their identities in an orderly manner. Shen Wu's original name was Gu Lianyi, and Wei Ba's original name was Qin Linglong. When it was Ding Er's turn, Yun Chujio finally found out that Ding Er's original name was Ding Wenru. Yun Chujio, a good name, a good name. It didn't seem at all out of place with Ding Er. When it came to Yun Chujio, this fellow straightened his back and announced the best name he had come up with over the past few days, Yan Qingqing. This guy felt that he was too compatible with this name. Initially he had wanted to call her Yan Juedai, the prettiest, the ugliest, and so on, but in the end he felt that they were too high profile. It was Yan Qingqing who was more low profile. Very soon, the identity document with Yan Qingqing's name on it was handed to Yun Chujio. This guy was very satisfied with the name on it. He had finally gotten rid of this lousy name, Chojio. After the identity document was processed, everyone went their separate ways. Their future situation would depend on their own luck. Altar Master Deng had to go to the headquarters of the Alliance of 10,000 Cities to report this matter. In addition to the fact that school was about to start at the Academy of 10 Directions, he had to give Yun Chujio a few instructions and pass his voice transmission talisman to her. "Little girl, if you need my help in the future, feel free to send me a message. As long as I can help, I will definitely do my best." Altar Master Deng said these words with extra sincerity. It was completely different from the perfunctory words he said in the heavenly dock. Yun Chujio smiled and said, "Altar Master, I will remember it. Please take care." The others also came over to bid farewell to Yun Chujio. Even Qin Shi, who had recovered his original name, Mei Xinyan, also came over to greet her. When Yun Chujio heard her original name, the corner of her mouth twitched. Mei Xinyan? Heartless. This name was very appropriate. After everyone had left, Yun Chujio and the other three followed Superintendent Zhang of the Academy of 10 Directions to the Academy of 10 Directions. Yun Chujio was a sweet talker and knew how to cause trouble. She quickly coaxed Superintendent Zhang until he was beaming with joy. He felt that his taste was really good. If the Academy of 10 Directions missed out on such a good student, it would be a great loss. "Superintendent Zhang, please introduce the situation of the Academy of 10 Directions to me. Also, what are the conditions for becoming a serious student of the Academy of 10 Directions?" Superintendent Zhang gave a brief introduction of the Academy of 10 Directions. It was nothing more than bragging about its great achievements. The Academy of 10 Directions and the Divine Enlightenment Academy were both known as the top academies on the Divine Enlightenment continent. Due to their geographical location, they were commonly known as the Divine Enlightenment Academy of the South and the North. Regardless of fame or strength, they were equally matched. Superintendent Zhang changed the topic. If you want to become an official student of the 10 Directions Academy, you need to pass several rounds of assessment. Only the best of them are qualified to enter the 10 Directions Academy. Yun Chujio blinked her eyes. Then can we participate in the assessment? Superintendent Zhang was stunned. Although he did not want to discourage her, he still said, "Little girl, although you are very smart, your cultivation is really too poor. Do you know what the lowest cultivation requirement is for the entrance examination of the 10 Directions Academy?" Superintendent Zhang didn't really want Yin Chujio to answer, so he continued, "The lowest cultivation requirement is the 5th level of the Divine Enlightenment. The lowest qualification for the entrance examination is the 5th level of the Divine Enlightenment. Usually, those who can pass the examination are above the 6th level of the Divine Enlightenment. You don't even meet the lowest qualification for the entrance examination. Moreover, the assessment of the 10 Directions Academy will officially begin tomorrow. We won't be able to make it in time." Superintendent Zhang was afraid that he would be a blow to Yun Chujio's confidence, so he comforted her. "Although the gap is a little big, you don't have to belittle yourself. As long as you work hard in the future, the 10 Directions Academy's listening students will be very good after graduation." Chapter 55 40 Powerful Self-Confidence. Yin Chujio smiled. "Superintendent Zhang, you don't have to persuade me. I always believe in one thing. Although the starting point is not something I can choose, how far I can go and how high I can climb in the end is something I can decide for myself." When Yun Chujio said this, her voice was not very high and her tone was not very strong. However, Superintendent Zhang's heart was shocked. Because he saw a strong confidence in Yun Chujio's eyes, he did not know what to say for a moment. Ding Wenru's mouth twitched. No wonder she dared to call Yan Qingqing by her name. She was really confident. The reason why Ding Wenru knew that the name Yun Chujio was calling Yan Qingqing was a fake name was very simple. Yun Chujio wrote a bunch of names on the paper like Yan Juedai, the most beautiful, and Dugu Chocho. She asked her to help her choose. This Yan Qingqing was chosen by Ding Wenru for Yun Chujio. Yun Chujio did this on purpose. Sometimes, it was easier to form an alliance if she left some small evidence to her companions. Besides, she knew very well that her fake identity would probably be revealed soon, so she didn't care. One day, when the flying spiritual device passed by a valley, Superintendent Zhang smiled and said, "The examinees from the 10 Directions Academy are here to participate in the assessment. Superintendent Kai, who is in charge of the assessment, and I are good friends. I will bring you to see it." In fact, Superintendent Zhang bringing them to see it was one thing. The most important thing was that the examinees would be staying here for 10 days. Superintendent Kai had nothing to say to the other lecturers, so when he learned that Superintendent Zhang happened to be passing by, he invited him to stay here with him for a few days. Superintendent Zhang thought that since school had not started yet, there was nothing much to do when he returned to the academy. He might as well catch up with his old friends here, so he readily agreed. When the two of them met, Superintendent Kai discreetly sized up Yin Chujio and the other three, then looked at Superintendent Zhang with a questioning gaze. "The girl in the middle is called Yan Qingqing. This time I met an ice quake at Zhenggu River. If it wasn't for her, you wouldn't have been able to see me. So, I specially recruited her to be an audit student. When I return to the academy, I will report to the dean." The other three have some background. Although they aren't very prominent because of Yan Qingqing's plea, and because they can afford to pay the donation fee, I reluctantly agreed, Superintendent Zhang explained. Superintendent Kai was not very interested in the matter of Ding Wenru and the other two. Although the 10 Directions Academy had some background requirements for audit students, there would be someone who pulled strings every year. As long as the donation fee was affordable. Everyone turned a blind eye. However, he was very interested in what Superintendent Zhang had said about the ice quake. He hurriedly asked Superintendent Zhang to explain the matter in detail. Superintendent Zhang immediately told him about what had happened that day. Then he sighed, "If it wasn't for King Cheng's intelligence and decisiveness, not to mention me, not a single person on that boat would have survived. However, a good person has a good reward." After this incident, Qingqing received an epiphany. Not only did she break through 3 levels of cultivation, but her injuries were also completely healed. Superintendent Kai was stunned when he heard this. The incident had been too thrilling and bizarre. If he did not know his good friend well enough to not lie to him, He would have thought that he was listening to a story. However, he thought of a crucial problem. Yan Qingqing had broken through 3 levels with an epiphany, and she looked like she was only at the 9th level of the Spirit Extinguisher realm. Then, wasn't she at the 6th level of the Spirit Extinguisher realm before? This was too low. Chapter 55-41 People are shameless and invincible in the world. Superintendent Kai thought to himself. Although this Yan Qingqing was brave, her talent seemed to be very ordinary. Unless there was a great opportunity, she would not be too outstanding. Although Superintendent Kai thought this in his heart, he did not show it on his face. Instead, he praised Yun Chujio a few times. There were many things that could only be etched in one's heart through personal experience. Bystanders would never feel the same, just like Superintendent Zhang and Superintendent Kai. At this moment, the other lecturers all came forward to greet Superintendent Zhang. Although the position of superintendent was not considered to be at the top of the hierarchy in the Academy of 10 Directions, it was still higher than the position of lecturers. Those lecturers naturally did not dare to neglect it. Superintendent Zhang exchanged a few pleasantries. After those lecturers walked to the side, he asked, "Brother Kai, how many examinees are you in charge of this time?" The number of examinees that the 10 Directions Academy applied for each year was uncountable. After the initial selection, there would still be many people. Therefore, the first 2 rounds of the assessment would be divided into 2 rounds. Superintendent Kai was in charge of 1 batch of examinees. The initial 5,000 people. After the first round, there are only 3,000 people left. It is estimated that after this round, there will be about 1,000 people left, said Superintendent Kai. Ding Wenru and the other 2 were speechless. The elimination rate was too high. It seemed that it would be very difficult for the Academy of 10 Directions to enter. Superintendent Zhang asked again, "What is the assessment for this round?" Superintendent Kai smiled and said, "It is quite simple. Leave them in the Rocky Valley for 10 days and calculate the points according to the demonic cores and spiritual herbs used to hunt demonic beasts. Those ranked in the top 1,000 will enter the next round and the rest will be eliminated. There are 3 more days until the deadline. We'll go back to the academy together then." Yun Chujio pursed her lips in her heart. She had said that entering the academy was the most boring. This kind of assessment was so old-fashioned that there was nothing new about it. Superintendent Zhang seemed to want to talk to Superintendent Kai alone for a while, so he said, "The 4 of you can wander around freely but don't go too far." Yun Chujio naturally couldn't ask for more. She responded respectfully and took Ding Wenru and the other 2 to walk around. Team leader, the 10 Directions Academy really lives up to its reputation. The acceptance rate is too low. It's only the second round and 4/5 of the people have been eliminated. Ding Wenru sighed. Yun Chujio glanced at her. "Please call me Yan Qingqing in the future or Qingqing." Ding Wenru, "Don't you know whether this name is real or not? Besides, you are so beautiful. How can you say yes when others call you Qingqing?" Ding Wenru didn't blame her for complaining. Yun Chujio had been taking the transfiguration pill. Her current appearance could only be called delicate and pretty. She was nothing like Qingqing. Ding Wenru complained in her heart, and then she said, "Qingqing, you said that the examination of the 10 Directions Academy is so difficult, so those who enter the 10 Directions Academy must be the favored ones of the heavens. Will we, the listening students, be ostracized and ridiculed by them?" Gu Liani and Qin Linglong also showed a worried look. They had always been smooth sailing in the previous continent, and the surroundings were full of flattery and envy. At the thought of the difference in entering the 10 Directions Academy, they could not help but feel a little worried. Yun Chujio curled her lips. What's there to worry about? How could it be worse than the situation in the heavenly dock? Remember this, people are shameless and invincible. You are shameless, what are you afraid of? Ding Wenru, Gu Liani, Qin Linglong, the 3 of them looked stiff, but they felt that what Yun Chujio said made sense. In order to survive in the heavenly dock, they had lost their so-called face a long time ago. In that case, what were they afraid of? Chapter 55-42 From? Ding Wenru and the other 2 were suddenly enlightened, and they immediately forgot about their worries. Out of curiosity, the 4 of them quickly strolled to the valley entrance barrier. Without any psychological burden, Ding Wenru and the other 2 quickly started chattering. They were very curious about everything in the Divine Enlightenment continent. Hei Xingjiu occasionally chimed in, but she didn't say anything after that. It wasn't that she was pretending to be deep, but that she was suppressing the evil Gowei Batsao. Although Gowei Batsao couldn't speak, Yun Chujio could still guess that this guy wanted her to enter the Rocky Valley. Hei Xingjiu was so angry that she kept twitching. Go-Wei Batsao, you'd better give up this idea as soon as possible. Let's not talk about whether Supervisor Kai will agree or not. Even if he does, it's full of dangers. Do you want me to go in and die? Go-Wei Batsao kept trying to act cute. Seeing that Yun Chujio still had no intention of giving in, this guy directly seized control of her body. Yun Chujio was so angry that she was about to explode. This was her body. Hers. Why did this damn Go-Wei Batsao want to take it away and take it away? What did she do to provoke such a damn grass? After Go-Wei Batsao gained control of her body, she subconsciously shook her arm. When Ding Wenru saw it, she asked, "Qingqing, are you feeling unwell?" Go-Wei Batsao blinked her eyes and ignored her. Instead, she quickly ran toward the place where Superintendent Zhang was. Ding Wenru and the other two were baffled and could only follow behind. "Superintendent Zhang, Superintendent Kai, I want to enter the Rocky Valley to broaden my horizons, okay?" Go-Wei Batsao said pitifully. Superintendent Zhang frowned and said, "Nonsense. Demonic beasts run rampant in the chaotic valley. Any one of them can take your life. There is no room for negotiation." Go-Wei Batsao was furious. He really wanted to strangle this old man with a leaf. It squeezed out 2 drops of tears. It said, "Superintendent Zhang, I know that this request is a bit too much, but when I had an epiphany earlier, an image flashed in my mind. It was the Rocky Valley in front of me, so I wanted to go in and look for an opportunity. Moreover, previously Superintendent Kai didn't say that if the person who went in was in danger, he could crush the jade plate and be teleported out. As long as he was careful, there wouldn't be any danger. Superintendent Zhang, I beg you please agree with me." Yun Chujio looked at her pitiful lackey and was so angry that she was about to explode. Damn Go-Wei Batsao. She actually lied without blinking. Who did she learn it from? She was so angry. In her heart, she begged Superintendent Zhang not to agree. She didn't want to go into the chaotic valley. If the jade plate was not useful, wouldn't she die in there? However, she had really misjudged Superintendent Zhang's good impression of her. When Superintendent Zhang heard that it was related to an epiphany, he immediately looked at Superintendent Kai. "Brother Kai, since that's the case, can you make it easy for her to go in and broaden her horizons?" Superintendent Kai pondered for a moment and said, "It's not impossible, but I have to make it clear in advance. If anything happens to this little girl, don't blame me." Of course, Superintendent Zhang agreed readily. Immediately, the superintendent took out a jade plate and handed it to Go-Wei Batsao. "After you activate this jade plate, you can enter the barrier in front. If you encounter any danger, you can crush the jade plate and be teleported out." Go-Wei Batsao pretended to thank him, then turned around and ran toward the barrier at the entrance of the valley. Ding Wenru and the other 2 wanted to ask a few questions, but Go-Wei Batsao ran so fast that the 3 of them couldn't chase after her. They could only look at her retreating figure with a puzzled expression. Chapter 55-43. What is Go-Wei Batsao looking for? If it wasn't for the fear of being exposed, Go-Wei Batsao would have been jumping around. It was indeed the smartest grass in the world. Even if the darn girl didn't agree, it could still achieve its wish. However, when Go-Wei Batsao arrived at the entrance of the valley, he realized that he had no way to activate the jade token in his hand. He could only say in a low voice, "Help me go in and find what I want. I will definitely not mistreat you." Yun Chujio sneered, "Go-Wei Ba, what right do you have to command me? Do you think that you can do whatever you want just because you can seize control of your body? Let me tell you, I will fight with you today. At worst, it will be a life and death struggle. No, people will die and grass will die." Go-Wei Batsao did not expect Yun Chujio's attitude to be so tough this time. It felt a little regretful, but it was useless to regret. It said humbly, "Great aunt, no little ancestor, please help me this time. I promise that I will never take control of your body again." Yun Chujio snorted and did not say anything. Go-Wei Batsao said a lot of nice things, but Yun Chujio did not intend to let go. Go-Wei Batsao was going crazy. Go-Wei Batsao gritted its teeth and said, "If you help me get what I want, I will tell you where I came from." Yun Chujio was a little tempted. She and the pretty boy could not find out the origin of Go-Wei Batsao. If they could find out what the hell it was, maybe they could get it out of the Dantian. "Is what you said true?" "Of course. If I lie to you, you can just torture me when the time comes." "I won't say anything else," Go-Wei Batsao said resolutely. "All right, just this once. If there's a next time, HMP." Seeing that Yun Chujio agreed, Go-Wei Batsao quickly returned the control of her body to Yun Chujio and began to act cute. Yun Chujio took a deep breath and activated the jade token in her hand. The enchantment cracked open and Yun Chujio walked in. The scene inside was not much different from the outside, but there were many stones scattered on the ground. Yun Chujio suddenly remembered what Goei Batsao was looking for. She could only return the control of her body to Goei Batsao and asked, "What are you looking for?" Goei Batsao could not hide its excitement and said, "Looking for a rock, looking for a rock." Yun Chujio, in the past she could understand that this fellow was looking for herbs, but now he was looking for a rock. What did that mean? What kind of rock? Can you sense the exact location? Goei Batsao shook its head like a rattled drum. "I'm still a little baby, so I'm not sure where exactly. If there's a suspicious area, you can sniff each rock." Yun Chujio, sniff the rocks one by one? Was she a dog? Forget it. When the time comes, he'll just give it control of the body and let it sniff by itself. After Yun Chujio took back control of the body, she carefully walked into the valley. She couldn't be careless. Any demon beast that came out from here would have a higher cultivation level than her. Although she could bluff, not all demon beasts would be fooled. Fortunately, the demonic beasts at the edge were probably all killed by the examinees. Yun Chujio walked for half a day and did not encounter any powerful demonic beasts. Yun Chujio was about to eat something when Goei Batsao began to tremble in excitement. It was obvious that it had discovered a suspected target. Yun Chujio turned her head to look. There were a few stones scattered not far away. It would be good if she could find the target among them. That way she could crush the jade token and leave. Chapter 55-44 Yun Chujio walked over and wanted to let the Goei Batsao sniff on its own. However, considering that the Goei Batsao could not protect itself after possessing it, she had no choice but to sniff the nearest rock with a cold expression. The Goei Batsao waved its leaves continuously, indicating that it was not this rock. Yun Chujio could only sniff the other rocks in turn. In the end, all of them were rejected by the Goei Batsao. Yun Chujio was furious. "Do you even have a clue? Since there wasn't a single piece, why did you let her sniff it?" Next, the Goei Batsao let Yun Chujio sniff a lot of rocks, but none of them were correct. Hei Shinjio was so angry that she was about to explode. She even suspected that the Goei Batsao was deliberately toying with her. She used her spiritual sense to scold the Goei Batsao, and the Goei Batsao kept acting cute. It was also very wronged. It was only a baby now, so its ability was limited. After a while, Goei Batsao found another rock. Yun Chujio bit the back of her teeth and moved closer to one of the rocks to smell it. At this time she heard messy footsteps. Yun Chujio's heart moved. Could it be that there were examinees coming? She didn't want to cause any trouble. Coincidentally, the rocks here were bigger, so she hid behind one of the rocks. She restrained her aura and looked outside through the gap between the two rocks. The first 7 men ran over. Their faces were filled with panic. Following closely behind were more than 10 men. "Don't go too far. If you force me again, I'll crush the jade token and go out," one of the 7 men said while holding the jade token in his hand. "Crush the jade token? Then go ahead and do it. No one will stop you," one of the men who chased after him said arrogantly. The person who had spoken at the beginning clenched his teeth and crushed the jade token immediately. However, he found out in despair that he was not teleported out. The other 6 people also crushed the jade token in their hands when they saw that, but they were not teleported out. What's going on? What's going on? It's very simple. Because Brother Bai has activated the void-ending talisman just now, your teleportation jade tokens will naturally lose their function. Cut the crap. Hand over the monster pills and medicinal herbs that you have obtained. Otherwise, you won't be able to leave this chaotic stone valley alive. The 7 people's faces were filled with grief and indignation. There were only 2 days left for the assessment. If they handed over the things in their hands, they would have no hope of entering the 10 Directions Academy. However, they did not dare not hand them over. After all, nothing was more important than their lives. Immediately, the 7 of them handed over their things and ran away in a sorry state amidst the laughter of those people. Brother Bai, you are still far-sighted. We have already robbed over 100 examinees. Not only will we be able to pass the second round, but our ranking will also be far ahead. This will be of great benefit to the 3rd round of the assessment. Of course, Brother Bai is the famous moon-treading young master. If it was not for taking care of us, Brother Bai would not have to go through so much trouble. That makes sense. With your cultivation and family background, it wouldn't be a problem for you to take the top spot. Now you even took out something as good as the void-denying talisman for us. We must follow your lead in the future. Yun Chujio's gaze fell on the moon-treading young master. Her pupils constricted. Why did this person look familiar? But she couldn't remember who exactly he looked like. Just then, someone asked curiously, "Brother Bai, I heard that your aunt's cousin has returned? Did he apply for the 10 Directions Academy or the Divine Enlightenment Academy?" Chapter 55-45 Yun Chuji's guess young master Taiyu's face immediately darkened. He's just a bastard. He's not worthy to be my cousin. The person who had spoken earlier saw his displeased expression and quickly echoed, yes, he's just a bastard who can't stand the limelight. It said that he grew up on a lower continent. No matter which academy he applied to, he wouldn't be able to pass. Young Master Taiyu's expression softened slightly, and he said with a hint of ridicule, "Grandfather was afraid that I would be disadvantageous to him, so he made him apply for the Divine Enlightenment Academy. However, a trash like him wouldn't be able to pass at all. Brother Bai is right. He can't be compared to you at all. He's just a bastard. This time, the top scorer of the 10 Directions Academy is none other than you. Brother Bai, you must protect us in the future. Of course. You are all my people. I will naturally protect you. Otherwise, I wouldn't have thought of ways to get you a good ranking in the second round of the assessment." As the crowd spoke, they escorted that young Master Moon stepping away. He must have gone to find the next target to rob. Yun Chujio suddenly widened her eyes. She remembered who this young Master Moonstepping looked like. He actually looked somewhat like Lan Luochen. Could it be that the bastard they were talking about was Lan Luochen? The old fox of the Lan family said that Lan Luchen's maternal family was very powerful. It seemed that young Master Moontreading was from an extraordinary background. She was most likely right. This guy was relieved. It would be great if Lan Dregs went to the Divine Enlightenment Academy, so he would not pester her like a dog's skin plaster. She did not feel much about the robbery of young Master Taiyu's group. After all, she had done the same thing before. On the path of cultivation, the strong preyed on the weak. The strong were respected. Those who were robbed could only admit that they were unlucky. Even if they went out and made a fuss about it, they would not be pitied. Instead, they would be ridiculed. After those people left, Yun Chujio continued to smell the stones bitterly. In the end, there was still no rock that Goei Batsao was looking for in this rock. Yun Chujio could only continue to walk forward. Perhaps her luck had run out and she had just walked out when she met a demonic beast that looked very similar to a bear. There was a star-shaped mark between the brows of the demonic bear, and the color was very bright. Yun Chujio had heard from Ding that the brighter the color, the higher the level. This demonic bear was at least a level 8 star mark, and it might even be a level 9. Yun Chujio wished she could tear the Goei Batsao and chew it up. How could her small arms and legs be a match for this thing? Although she might be able to escape with all her might, this way the commotion would definitely be huge. It would be bad if her secret that could not be seen was exposed. Therefore she had to outsmart it. Just as this fellow was thinking about how to trick the bear in front of him, he did not expect more than a dozen people to run over from afar. One of the women said in surprise, "It's actually the golden-eyed desolate bear, Go." In a short moment, the dozen people ran in front of Yun Chujio and surrounded the golden-eyed desolate bear. Yun Chujio found these people too pleasing to the eye. They came at the right time. Yun Chujio blinked her eyes and did not leave. These dozen people were clearly a small group. Following them was a guarantee of her life. Only a fool would leave. Hence, this fellow threw a few fireballs at the golden-eyed desolate bear. Although it was useless, it meant that she had contributed. The golden-eyed desolate bear's skin was rough and thick. Even though it was surrounded by so many people, it still managed to hold on for more than an hour. In the end, it let out an unwilling howl and died. Chapter 55-46 I am not an examinee. Yun Chujio looked at the dead bear on the ground, feeling proud in her heart. "Little fellow, you still want to eat me? If you have the ability, then come and eat me." Those people dug out the golden-eyed desolate bear's inner core and put it away. After that, they also put away the golden-eyed desolate bear's corpse. Seeing that they did not discuss the ownership of the demon core, Yun Chujio was even more certain that they were a small team. She estimated that they would split the spoils of war evenly in the end. At this time, those people looked at Yun Chujio and were all stunned. The 9th layer of spiritual destruction? What kind of joke was this? Wasn't the 10 Directions Academy only able to apply for the exam above the 5th layer of divine enlightenment? How did she get the qualification to apply? Yun Chujio said with gratitude, "Everyone, I'm not an examinee, I'm an audit student. The Kai department asked me to come in and help him find some things. Can I come with you? I know it's a bit abrupt, but my cultivation is really too low. If I don't follow you, I definitely won't be able to complete the mission. I promise I won't implicate you. If I run into trouble, I'll take the initiative to crush the jade plate. I definitely won't drag you down. Those people looked doubtful. Director Kai asked her to come in and help him find something? To send such a trash in, was Director Kai crazy? Yun Chujio was afraid that they wouldn't believe her. She took out her jade token to show that what she said was true. She remembered what she had seen before and lowered her voice. In order to thank you for taking me in, I'll tell you a secret. That moon-treading young master gathered more than a dozen people to look for the target of the robbery. They have already robbed more than 100 examinees. And that moon-treading young master has the absolute space talisman in his hands. Once it is activated, the jade token in our hands will no longer be of use. So everyone must be careful. Everyone's expressions were a little complicated. What did she mean by thanking them for taking her in? They had not agreed yet, all right? However, the matter that she had mentioned was very useful to them. They had not expected that moon-treading young master would actually have the absolute space talisman. If they met him, it would be better for them to avoid it. They discussed it and decided to take Yun Chujio in. Because they felt that auditors usually had a background. Moreover, it was Supervisor Kai who let her in. Perhaps she had some relationship with Supervisor Kai. Moreover, it wasn't a burden to take her with him. At most, he would let her crush the jade token. Okay, just follow us. What's your name? Where are you from? The woman who spoke earlier asked. My name is Yen Qingcheng. I ascended from the Chongshao continent, Yun Chujio said with a smile. Both the woman and the others were stunned. Ascended from the Chongshao continent? Since when did the audience of the 10 Directions Academy have such low requirements? Just as everyone was in shock, Yun Chujio asked with a smile, Ladies and gentlemen, what are your names? Everyone was a little embarrassed to be called by her, so they all reported their names. The woman who asked the question earlier was called Han Binger. She asked tentatively, You ascended from the Chongshao continent. Do you have any relatives in the Divine Enlightenment continent? Yun Chujio naturally knew the purpose of her question. She said vaguely, I was recommended by Superintendent Zhang. By the way, Sister Han, is that you tread young master very powerful? Han Binger heard her words and exchanged glances with the others. Since it was recommended by the superintendent, he must have some background. She did not continue to ask. Instead, she said, Young Master Tai Yu's name is Bai Yuechen. He is the eldest grandson of the head of the Bai family. He is already at the 8th level of the Divine Enlightenment. He is a popular candidate for the top spot this time. Yun Chujio was about to say something when the Gowei Batsao in her dantian suddenly began to wave its leaves excitedly, indicating that it had made a new discovery. Yun Chujio looked around suspiciously. There were no rocks here. Why was the Gowei Batsao so excited? Chapter 55-47. Wind and Moon, unparalleled in the world. Yun Chujio used her spiritual sense to suppress Gowei Batsao and heard Han Binger continue. Wind and Moon, unparalleled in the world. This is the famous 4th young master of the Divine Enlightenment continent. The 4 of them not only have an illustrious family background, but they also have extraordinary appearances and excellent natural endowments. As a result, no one dares to provoke them. Yun Chujio showed a cooperative look of surprise, but in her heart, she pursed her lips. Bai Yuechen only looked SOSO, and there was no way he could be compared to the pretty boy, the black chicken head, and the blue dregs. He was only slightly stronger than Enfeng. It was actually difficult to live up to a famous reputation. The other 3 young masters probably only had a false reputation, and they were just relying on their good family background. Just as Yun Chujio was thinking about it, the Gowei Batsao in her dantian began to act cutely again. Moreover, Yun Chujio had a feeling that if she ignored it, this fellow would probably take over the Gowei Bakeo's nest again. Yun Chujio's feelings for the Gowei Batsao were a little complicated. At the beginning, she naturally hated it to death. However, she had to admit that this fellow had helped her a lot. It really made people love and hate it. She realized that Gowei Batsao had been wagging its tail again recently. She had to think of a way to control Gowei Batsao. Otherwise, Gowei Batsao would take over Gowei Bakeo's nest. Was really hateful. Hei Shinjio gritted her teeth. I'll let you prance around for a few days first. We'll see. At this time, the sky had begun to darken. Han Binger and the others decided to camp on the spot. Yun Chujio found an excuse and went to a place a little further away from the group. She then asked Gowei Batsao, There are no stones there. Why are you so excited? Have you suffered from epilepsy? Gowei Batsao felt that Yun Chujio's words were not pleasant to hear, but this fellow had a favor to ask of her now, so he still answered eagerly, yes. Although there are no stones on the ground, there are stones on the ground. Help me dig them out now and smell them. Yun Chujio gritted her teeth. You want me to dig stones in front of so many people? Anyway, didn't you lie to them that you came in to look for something? Isn't that normal? If you are afraid of being tired, I can dig it out myself. I am very hard-working, Gowei Batsao said with a smile. Yun Chujio felt that she must have done something outrageous in her past life. Otherwise, why would she be involved in such a terrible thing? She resisted the urge to slap Gowei Batsao to death and squeezed out 2 words from between her teeth. Okay, I'll dig it. Gowei Batsao immediately said obsequiously, don't worry. If you help me, I'll repay you well in the future. As the saying goes, don't forget each other when you're rich. Yun Chujio, this is not the same dog, okay? You illiterate grass. When Yun Chujio returned to the campsite, Han Binger and the others were eating. They were basically eating biscuits and buns. When Han Binger saw Yun Chujio, she handed her a bun enthusiastically. Yun Chujio did not refuse. After thanking her, she took it and ate it. Yun Chujio glanced around and felt like she was cursing a dog in her heart. Han Binger and the others moved very quickly. They had already built quite a number of tents, and the place Gowei Batsao mentioned was under those tents. Was she going to tear down their tents? It was best to let these people take the initiative to move the tents to another place. What should she do? This guy rolled his eyes and finally came up with a bad idea. While everyone was chatting and laughing, Hei Shinjo let out a small flame. In an instant, the tents were set on fire. Chapter 55-48. Strive to make a perfect black heart. Grass. Han Binger and the others saw that the tent was on fire and quickly went to put out the fire. However, it was still too late. Most of the tents had been burned. Everyone could not help but wonder, why was this tent on fire all of a sudden? Could it be that there were sparks from the bonfire that splashed onto the tent? That was not right. Their tents were all fireproof. Normal fire would not be able to burn them at all. What the hell? Everyone couldn't help but feel a little scared. If it wasn't because it was night, they wouldn't have stayed here. Ladies and gentlemen, this fire is really strange. I'll go over and see if I can find the reason, Yun Chujio said. Han Binger quickly stopped her. Sister Qingqing, just as you said, this fire is very strange. You'd better not go over. Yun Chujio straightened her back. Sister Han, if we can't find the reason, everyone will definitely panic. I can't eat for free. I have to make some contributions. Don't worry, I will be extra careful. Yun Chujio said and walked over without hesitation. Then she began to pretend to look at the scene of the fire. The way Han Binger and the others looked at her suddenly changed. Although this Yan Qingcheng's cultivation was a little useless, she was a good person. It was not in vain for them to take her in. Gowei Batsao shook its leaves. TSK, this darn girl was really insidious. She was full of evil ideas. It seemed that in the future, it would have to learn more from her and strive to be a perfect black-hearted grass. Yun Chujio looked around, then took out the pickaxe and began to dig the stones. Han Binger stood in the distance and asked curiously, Sister Qingqing, what are you doing? Yun Chujio said without changing her expression, since there's nothing unusual around here, maybe there's something wrong down here. I'll dig it open and take a look. Everyone believed her, so no one said anything. They just watched Yun Chujio dig the soil. Yun Chujio dug a few times and found a few stones. However, they were all denied by Gowei Batsao. Hei Shinjo was so angry that she almost died. Was it trying to tire the 2 idiots? She was so angry. Gowei Batsao was also a little guilty. It was not intentional. At worst, it could just compensate the smelly girl in the future. Yun Chujio had no choice but to say to Han Binger and the others in embarrassment, I thought there would be fire marrow or fire-type demonic insects, but I didn't find them. Maybe I was thinking too much. Han Binger and the rest did not blame her. Instead, they comforted her. Hei Xinjia's remaining conscience could not help but hurt a little. She decided to make it up to Han Binger and the rest if there was a chance. The next morning, Han Binger and the rest had breakfast and discussed their next step. Although we have a decent number of trophies, the strength of the other examinees is not to be underestimated. In addition, there are robberies. So, to be on the safe side, we should try our best to get as many points as possible. That's right. The last 2 days are very crucial. We cannot slack off. If you ask me, we should still walk further inside. If we encounter any danger, at most we can just crush the jade token. After everyone discussed, they decided to continue to move deeper into the rocky valley. Yun Chujio naturally could not wish for more. She eagerly followed Han Binger and the others to continue, searching for rocks. Han Binger quickly realized that this student was fond of all kinds of rocks. As long as she saw a rock, she would go over and touch it. Han Binger asked curiously, Sister Qingqing, could it be that the thing that Supervisor Kai asked you to look for is a rock? Chapter 55-49 was simple. Yun Chujio chuckled. Sister Han, you are so smart. I have some research on mineral prospecting, so the Kai department asked me to come in and look for an ore. But now it seems that I can't find it. You know that I have just ascended, so I don't know much about the ores in the Divine Enlightenment continent. How can I find it? I think the Kai department wants me to come in and broaden my horizons. Hearing this, no one doubted what she said. Moreover, they imagined that Yan Qingqing must have a background, so the CAI department found a random excuse to let her in. After they imagined it, their attitude toward Yun Chujio became better. Seeing this, He Xinjiu heaved a sigh of relief and cursed Gowei Batsao in her heart. Along the way they encountered a few demon beasts, but their grades were not high. They killed them without much effort. Han Binger sighed. These demon cores are not worth a few points. It would be great if we could find some high-grade herbs or meet more demon beasts. Yun Chujio's eyes flickered. She wanted to meet more demon beasts? That was easy. She let Gowei Batsao release a bit of its fragrance and soon attracted a lot of demon beasts. There weren't any particularly high-level demon beasts in the surroundings. In addition, the Gowei Batsao released its fragrance intermittently, so Han Binger and the others could handle it. Han Binger and the others were so happy that they couldn't close their mouths. According to this trend, not only could they pass the second round of assessment, but their ranking would also be very high. Just as they were in high spirits, a group of people came from afar. It was Bai Yuechen and the others. Yun Chujio saw that there were many more people behind Bai Yuechen and she frowned slightly. The so-called bad intentions? Could it be that they wanted to rob Han Binger and the others? Han Binger and the others were also shocked and immediately became vigilant. Hey, did you kill a lot of demonic beasts just now? We drove them here. Hurry up and hand over your storage rings, or else don't blame us for not being polite. A man said arrogantly. Han Binger's face was full of anger as she said, Fan Chi, are you being unreasonable? Those demonic beasts came here by themselves, how could you drive them here? The man called Fan Chi said with a fake smile, Sister Binger, you don't know about this. Brother Bei's family is well educated, so a mere beast taming technique is naturally not a problem. Don't worry, as long as you follow me, I promise to let you pass the second round of the assessment. Han Binger was so angry that her face flushed red. Shameless. These things were painstakingly obtained by us. We won't hand them over to you. Fan Chi wanted to tease them a little more, but Bai Yuechen said unhappily, Fan Chi, why do you talk so much nonsense? Fan Chi embarrassedly smiled and then said arrogantly, do you want to hand them over or not? If you don't hand them over, we can only take action. Brother Bai has already activated the void-ending talisman, so don't even think about crushing the jade token. Han Binger and the others were both angry and afraid. Although there were more than 10 of them, there were more than 20 people like Bai Yuechen. Moreover, they did not dare to really do anything to Bai Yuechen. However, they were really unwilling to hand it over just like that. That was the 10 Directions Academy's enrollment qualification that they had dreamed of. They wanted to run, but they were surrounded by Bai Yuechen and the others. They were afraid that they would not be able to escape. At this moment, the roars of beasts came one after another from afar, and they seemed to be approaching this place. Chapter 55-50 was definitely not wrong this time. Bai Yuechen's expression immediately changed. What was going on? Could it be that there was a beast tied at the last minute? The others immediately panicked. At this moment, Yun Chujio cried out in alarm, Beast tied. It must be a beast tied. Run. She recklessly chose a direction and rushed over. The few lackeys of Bai Yuechen were a little distracted and allowed Yun Chujio to rush out. Han Binger and the others immediately rushed out from the gap. Bai Yuechen gritted his teeth in anger, but when he heard the beast roar approaching, he did not bother to chase after Han Binger and the others. He quickly took his men and left. Yun Chujio and Han Binger ran for some distance, but when they saw that Bai Yuechen and the others did not chase after them, they stopped. They turned their ears to listen, and when the beast roars stopped, they immediately heaved a sigh of relief. Sister Qingqing, thank you very much. If it wasn't for your cleverness, I'm afraid we wouldn't have been able to escape, Han Binger said gratefully. Yun Chujio chuckled. It's not that I'm clever. I was really afraid of a beast tied, so it was just a fluke. Everyone also laughed. No matter what, they had to thank Yan Qingqing for this matter. Han Binger and the others discussed. Their spoils of war were enough to pass the assessment. There was no need for them to risk their lives here. Hence they decided to crush their jade tokens and leave. Sister Qingqing, you should leave with us. It's too dangerous for you to stay here alone, Han Binger advised. Yun Chujio felt very bitter. She wanted to leave, but there was a worrisome Goei Batsao in her dantian. So she said, you guys go out first. I'll take a look. If there's any danger I can crush the jade token. Han Binger tried to persuade her, but seeing that she insisted, she couldn't say much. She could only tell her to be careful of Yun Yun. Then she crushed the jade token and was teleported out. Yun Chujio sighed and continued to look for the stone according to the direction indicated by Go Wei Batsao. Go Wei Ba, it can't be that the stone you're looking for isn't here, right? Why don't we go out as well? As long as you agree to go out, I'll feed you some more medicinal pills to satisfy your cravings. You go out obediently, I'll let Xiao Mogu out to talk to you. Unfortunately, no matter how much Yun Chujio threatened and enticed, Go Wei Batsao was determined to find the stone. Yun Chujio cursed in her heart. Damn it, it wasn't some wood and stone miracle in the dream of the Red Chamber. Why was this damn broken grass looking for the stone? She had no choice but to continue searching carefully. On the way she encountered some examinees. Some of them ignored her while others wanted to rob her. However, after she revealed her identity as an audit student, those people dispelled their thoughts. They only looked at her with more or less disdain in their eyes. The audit student was nothing more than a qualification bought with money by relying on her family background. She could never hide the fact that she was a waste. Yun Chujio did not care about these gazes at all. There was only one thought in her mind, and that was to quickly find that broken stone. In the blink of an eye, it was the last day of the assessment. If she did not crush the jade token before midnight, she would have to walk out. Goei Batsao was a little agitated, and even Yun Chujio was a little anxious. Before dawn, she began to search according to the direction Goei Batsao had pointed out. Just after midnight, Go Weiba suddenly became excited and even directly occupied Yun Chujio's body. He shouted, Found it! Found it! Quick, let's go. This time we won't be wrong. Chapter 55-51 This stone is my mother. Yun Chujio did not have the time to pack up the Goei Batsao. After regaining control of her body, she ran in the direction that the Goei Batsao told her to. However, when this fellow saw the scene in front of her, he wished that he could cut the Goei Batsao into 1,000 pieces. She was currently in a cave. In front of her was a python that was as thick as a water tank. There was a bright red crescent mark between its brows. The python stared at Yun Chujio with a pair of cold vertical eyes, as if it would devour her in the next moment. A moon-marked demon beast. And it was a high-level moon-marked demon beast. Under the python's coiled body was a nest of snake eggs. Among them was a round stone. It was probably the stone Goei Batsao was looking for. Yun Chujio used her spiritual sense to ask. Goei Batsao shook its leaves excitedly. The answer was obvious. This was the stone it was looking for. Yun Chujio was furious. The original stone was only the size of a fist, but it had let her smell countless large stones. Damn Goei Batsao. However, the most important thing now was how to get the stone. If she fought it head-on, she would not be the python's opponent even if she used all her methods. She rolled her eyes. The reason why the python did not attack her immediately was probably because it was worried about its eggs. She would start with these eggs. She whispered a few words to Goei Batsao. Goei Batsao immediately shook its leaves to show that it understood. Yun Chujio smiled dryly at the python and said, Well, I'm just passing by. Goodbye. After saying that, the python turned around and ran. At the critical moment when the snake eggs were hatching, the python didn't chase after Yun Chujio. Instead, it just stared at her coldly as she left the cave. At this moment, the python was stunned to find that the snake eggs it was protecting had started to fight to get out and roll away. It was simply stunned. What was going on? It quickly pulled the snake eggs back gently, but it could not stop the snake eggs from rolling away. Unknowingly, the python was lured out of the cave. The python soon discovered Hei Shinjio outside the cave. It was so angry that it hissed. However, it was in a hurry to protect the eggs so it could not deal with Hei Shinjio. At the same time, Goei Batsao had sneaked into the cave. It excitedly wrapped the stone with its leaves and flew out of the cave. Yun Chujio saw that Goei Batsao had succeeded and ran away. Although the python wanted to chase after Yun Chujio and kill her, it looked at the scattered snake eggs on the ground and could only grit its teeth and bring the snake eggs back to the cave to continue incubating the eggs. When they reached a hidden place, Yun Chujio did not even have the chance to see what the stone was before her body was snatched away by Gowei Batsao. Gowei Batsao held the stone and was so excited that it was twitching. My precious darling. I didn't expect to see you again. Woo, the heavens really have eyes. Yun Chujio curled her lips. Could this stone be Gowei Bakao's little lover? Great, this Gowei Batsao that was abandoned all along. Since she had this stone, why did she still hook up with Xiao Mogu? Gowei Batsao sensed Yun Chujio's thoughts and explained, what do you know? This stone is my mother. Yun Chujio, why did it feel like she was struck by lightning? This stone was Gowei Bakao's mother? No, it should be my father. That's not right either. In any case, without this stone there wouldn't be me. I'm warning you in the future, be more respectful to my parents, or else I won't be polite to you. Gowei Batsao said fiercely. Chapter 55-52 Was this arrogant Yun Chujio was dumbfounded. Was it her lack of knowledge or was Gowei Batsao spouting nonsense? This stone was Gowei Bakao's father and mother? What the hell? Gowei Batsao ignored Yun Chujio and held the stone with a silly smile on its face. Then it said to Yun Chujio, now it seems that many of my parents are still alive. You have to help me find them in the future, do you hear me? Yun Chujio, what did she mean by they? How many parents could there be? Just as Yun Chujio was about to speak, Gowei Batsao said again, if I can find more of my parents, I can leave your Dantian. Do you think you can help me find them? Help. I will definitely help. Is what you said true? If you find more of these stones, you can leave my Dantian? Yun Chujio asked excitedly. Gowei Bakao's eyes flashed. Of course it's true. I never lie. Yun Chujio thought about the taste of these words. Why did it sound more and more like a lie? Gowei Batsao was afraid that Yun Chujio would be suspicious, so he quickly said, it's getting late. Quickly crush the jade token and go out. Otherwise, you won't be able to make it in time for the gathering. Yun Chujio wanted to ask Gowei Batsao about her background, but when she saw that it was almost midnight, she had no choice but to put the stone into her storage ring and crush the jade token. Gowei Batsao in her Dantian let out a sigh of relief. The baby's background was so extraordinary, it would never tell this stinky girl. Anyway, it was staying in her Dantian. Even if she wanted to teach it a lesson, there was nothing she could do. It was just that arrogant and fearless. What could that stinky girl do to it? Yun Chujio more or less guessed Gowei Bakao's thoughts. The corners of her mouth curled into a sneer. She couldn't do anything to it? Don't forget that stone was in her storage ring. They'll deal with it when I have time. A white light flashed in front of Yun Chujio's eyes. When she regained her sight, she was already outside the valley. At this moment, there was a sea of people outside the valley. They were all examinees who had participated in the assessment. Yun Chujio was puzzled. She hadn't seen so many people in the valley before. Where did they come from? In fact, she did not know that the chaotic world valley had been divided into several areas. The enchantment that she had entered was just one of the areas. While Yun Chujio was in a daze, Ding Wenru and the other two ran over. Qingqing, you're finally out. I was worried sick. Are you hurt? Ding Wenru asked with concern. Yun Chujio giggled. I'm fine. I'm very well. It's just that I haven't found any opportunities. Let's go and see Superintendent Zhang. After seeing Superintendent Zhang comforted He Xinjiu. It was nothing more than opportunities that could be encountered but not sought. There would be opportunities in the future. As they spoke, the results of the examinees had already been announced. Those who passed the test were naturally very happy, while those who didn't pass the test had dejected expressions. Yun Chujio saw the names of Han Binger and the others in the list of names that passed and heaved a sigh of relief. She saw that Bai Yuechen and the others' names were also on the list, and Bai Yuchen's name was at the top of the list. Even his sidekick, Fan Qi, was ranked in the top 10. Yun Chujio didn't care about this. After all, who ranked first had nothing to do with her. What she cared about now was how to find more stones, and then let that damned Gowei Batsao leave her Dantian. Then she could have sex with that pretty boy. Chapter 55-53, Misty Lake. The efficiency of the 10 Directions Academy was very high. 2 hours later, Superintendent Kai summoned the flying spiritual device and led the examinees who had passed the assessment to the 10 Directions Academy. There were also a few lecturers who were responsible for sending the eliminated examinees to the nearby cities. Superintendent Zhang brought Yun Chujio and the other 3 on the flying spiritual device and sent them to the cabin where the examinees were. As soon as Yun Chujio entered the cabin, Han Binger saw her. She quickly waved her hand. Sister Qingqing, over here? Yun Chujio smiled and brought Ding Wenru and the other two to sit next to Han Binger. Yun Chujio first congratulated Han Binger for passing the exam, then introduced Ding Wenru and the other two to her. Although Han Binger was surprised that Ding Wenru and the other two's cultivation levels were so low, she didn't show it on her face. She politely greeted them. The people around did not have Han Binger's self-restraint. They looked at Yun Chujio and the other three with eyes full of sizing up and disdain. Could it be that these four good-for-nothings were also examinees? Moreover, they had passed the second round of assessment? Some examinees who had once met in the chaotic world valley said, "They are audit students. They only have the qualifications to spend money to buy them. They probably took our flying spirit tool along the way." Hearing this, the crowd looked at Yun Chujio and the other three with even more disdain. So they were audit students. In their hearts, audit students were synonymous with being stupid and having a lot of money. They were a bunch of useless snacks that relied on their father. The official students of the 10 Directions Academy and audit students were like clouds and mud. After the official students graduated from the 10 Directions Academy, all the major forces would compete to recruit them. However, audit students were annoying and sought after. They were just slightly better than the average person. Ding Wenru and the other two blushed and lowered their heads. It was obvious that they found it hard to accept the contempt of these people. However, Yun Chujio was still chatting with Han Binger with a smile, as if she did not see the eyes of those people at all. Seeing this, Han Binger was even more certain that Yun Chujio's background must be very strong. Otherwise, where would she get the confidence? Thus, their words became even more intimate. The chaotic world valley was not too far from the 10 Directions Academy. A day later, the flying spirit tool landed on the ground. Yun Chujio found that they were actually on the shore of a lake. The surface of the lake rippled and was very wide. However, the distance was covered by a thin layer of fog, obstructing people's vision. She recalled the situation that Superintendent Zhang had introduced and thought, this should be the Misty Lake. The 10 Directions Academy was different. It was neither in the city nor in the mountains. Instead, it was on the 10 islands of the Misty Lake. It was said that this was the origin of the name of the 10 Directions Academy. The 10 islands were all equipped with formations. They could be formed individually or together. With the surrounding lake water, even if they encountered a strong enemy, they could protect themselves. Of course, only blind people would attack the 10 Directions Academy because that was no different from sending themselves to their deaths. Just as Yun Chujio was in a daze, a large ship sailed over from afar. The examinees were excited. It's the ship of the 10 Directions Academy. It must be here to pick us up. I heard that the 10 Directions Academy is like a fairyland. Even if we can't pass the test in the end, it would be a blessing for us to broaden our horizons. Look at what you're saying. We'll definitely pass the exam. Then we'll be able to live and study in the 10 Directions Waterside Pavilion. You're right. We'll definitely be able to enter the 10 Directions Academy. Chapter 55-54. Board the ship. Amidst the excited discussions of the crowd, the ship gradually approached. However, because the water level on the shore was too shallow, the ship stopped several hundred feet away from the shore. Yun Chujio secretly thought to herself, could it be that she would have to swim over several hundred feet? Soon she realized that she was thinking too much. She did not know how the people on the ship operated, but a pontoon actually appeared on the shore and at the bow of the ship. A person who looked like a lecturer at the bow of the ship cupped his hands at Superintendent Kai and Superintendent Zhang. Then Superintendent Kai led everyone onto the ship. After Yun Chujio boarded the ship, she could not help but feel envious. Not only was the ship big, but it was also decorated extremely luxuriously. It was divided into 3 floors. Other than the magnificent hall, there were also a number of exquisite individual rooms. However, these examinees, as well as Yun Chujio and the other 3, were naturally not qualified to enter those individual rooms. They were all arranged in the hall on the first level. The examinees were extremely excited. They gathered in groups of 3 to 5 and chatted and laughed. Yun Chujio asked Han Binger curiously, Sister Han, how long will it take for us to reach the Academy of 10 Directions? Will we arrive soon? Han Binger smiled and said, it won't be that soon. Although the Misty Lake is a lake, it is actually very big. I think we will reach it tomorrow morning at the earliest. Yun Chujio did not expect that it would take so long, but it did not matter. They would arrive after a nap. While the sky was still dark, Yun Chujio brought Ding Wenru and the other 2 to the deck to enjoy the scenery. The water surface of the misty lake was very calm. There were only slight waves. Occasionally there were some water birds skimming over the surface of the water. It was quiet and beautiful, making people involuntarily calm down. It was not until the sky darkened that Yun Chujio and the other three returned to the hall on the first floor. After a simple dinner, everyone fell asleep. Yun Chujio also closed her eyes. While she was sleeping soundly, Yun Chujio felt a slight pain in her dantian. Yun Chujio opened her eyes a little. She saw that although Han Binger and the others had their eyes closed, their faces were full of confusion. Her heart moved. Had she fallen into an illusion? Could it be that the 10 Directions Academy had directly set up the third round of assessment on the ship? It was really treacherous. These examinees were extremely relaxed now. They did not think of the assessment at all. Instead, they could catch them off guard. Then the question came. What should she do? This fellow closed H. Then she used her spiritual sense to stop the black bead from reminding her again. She wanted to see what kind of assessment these people were taking. She let her spiritual sense go blank and fell into a half-asleep state. The scene before her eyes suddenly changed. They were still in the living room on the first floor. Everyone looked at the people of the CAI department standing in front of them, puzzled. Why did the CAI department wake them up in the middle of the night with such a heavy expression on their faces? Even with a hint of grief? What had happened? In the midst of everyone's confusion, Director Kai said with great difficulty, "Examinees, I have just received news that the 10-sided waterside pavilion where the 10-sided academy is located has sunk to the bottom of the water for some unknown reason." Everyone immediately exploded. What? The 10-sided waterside pavilion sank to the bottom of the water? Then wouldn't the 10-sided academy's 10,000-year-old foundation be completely destroyed? Didn't the 10-sided waterside pavilion have the support of a formation? How could it still sink to the bottom of the water? Overwatch Council Kai raised his voice and continued to say, "This isn't the worst thing. After all, the 10-sided waterside pavilion has been destroyed. We can just choose a new site and rebuild it. What's even worse is that the Misty Lake is connected to the demon-suppressing sea. Those sea beasts have somehow surged into the Misty Lake and are currently besieging the surviving teachers and students of the 10-sided academy." Chapter 55. Courage was commendable. When everyone heard Director Kai's words, they became even more flustered. What? The sea beasts of the demon-suppressing sea were besieging the people of the 10 Directions Academy? Was there still a way to survive? How could they have provoked the sea beasts of the demon-suppressing sea? At this time, everyone realized that the cabin was shaking violently. The Misty Lake had always been calm. It was impossible for such a big storm to occur. It seemed that something had really happened. Director Kai sighed. "We have to go back and help. Although it may not be of much use, we cannot just stand by and watch. You are not students of the 10 Directions Academy yet, so I have no right to force you to go back with me to help. If you want to leave, I will prepare another boat to send you out of here. There is no time to lose. Those who want to leave, stand on the left. Those who want to follow me to the 10-sided waterside pavilion, stand on the right." Everyone had different expressions. Someone immediately stood on the left. Although the 10-sided academy was good, there was no need for them to lose their lives. At most, they could just go and apply for the Divine Enlightenment Academy. Once someone took the lead, many people walked to the left. Bai Yuchen's expression was gloomy as he stood on the spot. Fan Chi said in a low voice, "Brother Bai, let's go too. There's no need for us to throw our lives away. The 10 Directions Academy is really stupid. They built the academy in a place that wasn't good, yet they built it on an island. They're really stupid." Bai Yuchen glared at him and said, "Let's see." As a member of the Bai family, he naturally knew some things that others did not know. The master of the Bai family had once told him that the array formation of the 10 Directions Academy was a formation passed down from the ancient times and was extremely sturdy. How could it sink all of a sudden? There might be a problem. Moreover, even if he really wanted to leave, it was not too late. It was not too late to take a look at the situation first. Han Binger was also a little conflicted. Some of her good friends had already stood to the left, but she was still a little hesitant. Ding Wenru and the other two had always followed Yun Chujia's lead. Seeing that she did not move, they also did not move. In less than half an hour, nearly half of the people had already walked to the left. Most of the remaining people were hesitant, but there was actually no one on the right. At this time, a slender figure stood firmly on the right. Let alone being surrounded by sea beasts, even if the sky falls and the earth cracks, I Yen Qingqing will defend the 10 Directions Academy to the death. Superintendent Zhang sighed in his heart. Did you see that? He had said that this little girl was the kindest, born with a feeling of compassion for the world. As expected, even if she had not officially become an audit student of the 10 Directions Academy, it did not hinder her loyalty to the 10 Directions Academy. Superintendent Sai also had a new opinion of He Xinjiu. Previously, when he heard what Superintendent Zhang had said, he had thought it was a little exaggerated. Now he saw that this Yen Qingqing was indeed a kind and good girl. Not only was she kind but she was also brave. Although her cultivation was a little low, she was still a potential talent. Ding Wenru and the other two had always followed Yun Chujia's lead. When they saw her stand on the right side, they also stood behind Yun Chujio. Han Binger was still hesitant at first, but now she gritted her teeth and stood on the right side. Her thoughts were very simple. It was obvious that this Yen Qingqing had a background. It was not wrong for her to follow her. Following that, more and more people stood to the right. Some were smart people who felt that something was amiss. Some were indeed full of passion to save people, while others were unconvinced. Could it be that they were not as courageous as a useless bystander? Chapter 55-56 was pure in nature. Bai Yuechen did not miss the slight change in the expressions of Superintendent Kai and Superintendent Zhang. He then thought of the deep foundation of the Academy of 10 Directions and immediately stood on the right side of the line. Fan Qi and the others saw the situation. Although they thought that Bai Yuchen's brain was damaged, they could only follow him. After everyone made their choice, the heavy expression on the face of Superintendent Kai immediately disappeared. He said lightly, "The examinees on the right side will enter the next round of assessment. The examinees on the left side will be eliminated." Everyone was stunned at first, but then they realized that it was fake. At this moment, everyone opened their eyes one after another, feeling a little absent-minded. The violent turbulence that they had felt before no longer existed. Was what happened before an illusion? Moreover, their minds were a little muddled and they could not think too much. Could it be that it was also because of the illusion? At this time, there were already lecturers who had started to call out names. The examinees who had chosen to stand on the left side immediately turned pale. They did not even have the courage to plead. They were the ones who had given up on the 10 Directions Academy first. Who else could they rely on? They could not even compare to the 4 listening students. How could they have the face to plead for mercy? After the people who had been eliminated were taken away, the CAI department did not say anything and directly left. The rest of the people had different expressions. Some had understood, some were scared, but most were happy. No matter what, they had passed the 3rd round of the assessment. Han Binger looked at Yun Chujio with a kind gaze. This Yen Qingqing was really her lucky star. If it wasn't for her, she might have stood on the left. Han Binger was about to say something when she saw Yun Chujio yawn. She actually closed her eyes and fell asleep. Han Binger shook her head speechlessly. This Yen Qingqing was really big-hearted. However, it was also true. Whether she passed or not had nothing to do with her. After all, she was only an audit student. At this moment, Superintendent Kai and Superintendent Zhang were chatting in their separate rooms. "Brother Kai, how is it? Am I right? That little girl has a pure heart." Although she is only an audit student, she was the first to stand on the right side, Superintendent Zhang said with pride. Superintendent Kai nodded. This little girl is indeed not bad. If it wasn't for her taking the lead, there would probably be many people who hesitated and wouldn't stand on the right side. It's just a pity that her cultivation is really a bit lacking. Unless there is a great opportunity, otherwise she can only fade into obscurity in the end. Superintendent Zhang sighed. What you said makes sense. Forget it. What happens in the future will all depend on her luck. Right? The purpose of this 3rd round of assessment is to see the temperament of those examinees, right? However, I see that many of them have already seen through our little tricks. Is there any meaning in this assessment? Superintendent Kai smiled. I don't know about the rest, but I know that the people who are eliminated are either cunning or stupid. Superintendent Zhang was stunned at first, then he laughed out loud. That makes sense. This test is like a big wave sweeping through the sand. It's good that it can play a role in the selection. As for the people who are left behind, there's nothing we can do about it. Superintendent Kai suddenly frowned. Do you think that little girl has already seen through our little trick? Is that why she put on such a show? Superintendent Zhang shook his head like a rattledrum. Impossible. That little girl's nature is pure and kind. It's completely from the bottom of her heart. Besides, her cultivation is so low that no one else has noticed. How could she have noticed? Chapter 55-57 Registration. Seeing that his old friend was so confident, the director of the Kai department stopped thinking about getting the shadow stone from the hall immediately. Yun Chujio was pleasantly surprised by the noise. She vaguely heard words like the 10-sided waterside pavilion is ahead. It's so beautiful. Seeing that she had woken up, Han Binger smiled and said, we are about to reach the 10-sided waterside pavilion where the 10-sided academy is located. Let's go out and take a look. Yun Chujio agreed readily. She brought Ding Wenru and the other two to follow Han Binger to the deck. The mist that had previously blocked everyone's sight had disappeared. They could vaguely see 10 islands in the distance. The 10 islands were not too far away. The island in the middle was the largest. The other 9 islands were scattered around like stars holding the moon. Amidst the lush trees, one could vaguely see the pavilions on the island. Yun Chujio was also a little excited. Although she was really not interested in the life of the academy, the 10 Directions Academy seemed to be good, and it was also good to go in and have some fun. An hour later, the big ship docked at the dock of an island, and everyone got off the ship. Yun Chujio saw a huge stone erected on the dock. On it were 4 words, Feng Shui Pavilion. There were many guards around the dock. They checked the identity documents of Superintendent Zhang and Superintendent Kai before they let them pass. There were several stone roads leading to different directions on the dock. Superintendent Kai had to take the examinees to the next assessment, so they separated from Superintendent Zhang. Superintendent Zhang smiled and said to Yun Chujio and the others, let's go. They'll take you to go through the registration procedures for the auditing students. Yun Chujio and the other 3 nodded their heads in thanks and then followed Superintendent Zhang inside. Yun Chujio was surprised to find that this Feng Shui Pavilion was actually very prosperous. It was similar to a small city. There were restaurants and shops. Superintendent Zhang seemed to see her curiosity and explained, there are many guards stationed at the Feng Shui Pavilion. They are usually responsible for patrolling the surrounding waters. In addition, if there are outsiders visiting, they will usually be arranged to be at the Feng Shui Pavilion. Some of the assessment and registration matters will be carried out here. Yun Chujio suddenly realized that this was not a bad idea. It could not only avoid affecting the other students, but it was also more convenient. When they reached the registration area, Superintendent Zhang said to the 4 of them, you guys wait here first. They'll go in and say hello. Yun Chujio knew that Superintendent Zhang was going in first to make connections. Ding Wenru and the other 2 were fine, but she was specially recruited to waive the donation fee, so she definitely had to say hello first. After Superintendent Zhang went in, Ding Wenru immediately said excitedly, Qingqing, I still feel like I'm dreaming. Are we really going to become audit students of the 10 Directions Academy? Yun Chujio smiled and nodded. Of course it's true. Gu Liani and Qin Linglong were also very excited. For a moment they were chattering non-stop. Yun Chujio only occasionally responded with a few words. At this moment, a disdainful voice came from the side. Where did this country bumpkin come from? Do you think that you can become an auditing student just because you handed in 3 melons and 2 dates? That's right. It's one thing for him to be dressed shabbily, but his cultivation is still so low. How dare he dream of entering the 10 Directions Academy? Could it be that he hasn't woken up yet? The audit students of the 10 Directions Academy not only need to be rich, but also have a background. Where did these 4 country bumpkins get the courage to dream here? It was a group of arrogant women who spoke. Their eyes were almost on the top of their heads. It seemed that they were also here to register as audit students. Chapter 55-58 was exposed. Ding Wenru and the other 2 blushed. They wanted to refute but were afraid of offending others. After all, they had no one to rely on right now, so it was better for them not to cause trouble. Yun Chujio did not say anything either. It was not that she was afraid of causing trouble, but she was lazy. After torturing scum for a long time, she lost interest. She was not in the mood to teach them a lesson since they were a bunch of idiots with small breasts and no brains. Seeing that Yun Chujio and the other 3 did not say anything, the women laughed even more brazenly. It meant that they could not be accepted by Yun Yun at all. At this moment, Superintendent Zhang came out and said to the 4, go and pay the money. Then listen to the arrangements of the lecturers inside. I still have something to do. If there is anything, contact me again. After Superintendent Zhang finished speaking, he left in a hurry. Yun Chujio glanced at the few women with a half-smile. Then she brought Ding Wenru and the other 2 to go through the procedures. The faces of the few women alternated between green and white. Although Yun Chujio did not say anything, her half-smile was like a hard slap on their faces. One of the women said hatefully, "That person was wearing the clothes of the superintendent. I didn't expect those 4 country bumpkins to have such abilities. So what if they were accepted? They won't have a strong background. When the time comes, we can deal with them however we want." That's right. The management of the auditing students is not as strict as the formal students. Just find an opportunity to make them suffer a little. Let's go and handle the procedures. Yun Chujio did not know what these people were planning. Moreover, even if she knew, this person would not be afraid. On the contrary, she would find it interesting. After the formalities were completed, Yun Chujio and the other 3 were arranged to stay in a dormitory in the backyard. After the registration was completed, they were then sent to the waterside pavilion in the lower courtyard. In order to avoid complications, Yun Chujio and the other 3 did not leave the courtyard. They cultivated conscientiously. In the blink of an eye, 10 days had passed. The assessment matters in charge of Supervisor Kai had finally come to an end. On a whim, he took out the shadow stone on the large ship to take a look. However, his gaze quickly shrank. This was because he clearly saw that when the examination had just begun, Yen Qingcheng's eyes had opened a slit and then closed again. At first, he thought that he had seen wrongly, but after looking at it a few times, he finally confirmed that the little girl had clearly seen through the illusion, but she had pretended to be trapped in the illusion. So, her impassioned words in the illusion were all for them to see? Superintendent Cai's expression immediately became ugly. He had thought that this Yen Qingcheng had a pure and kind heart, but it turned out that she was a cunning person. He thought of the things Superintendent Zhang had told him, and he began to doubt the authenticity of those things. He immediately took the shadow stone and found Superintendent Zhang. With a cold smile, he said, "This is the kind and good girl you said?" After looking at the shadow stone, Superintendent Zhang was momentarily stunned. In his heart, Yun Chujio's image of a kind person was as solid as a rock. He found it hard to believe that Yun Chujio's kindness was just an act. He opened his mouth and said, "Perhaps she only woke up for a short while and then fell into an illusion again." Superintendent Kai laughed coldly. Look at the other people's expressions. Sometimes they are flustered and sometimes they are surprised. Look at her expression again. She is as indifferent as ever. Clearly, she has not completely fallen into an illusion. Superintendent Zhang was rendered speechless. After a long while, he mumbled, "She is just a little girl. She might be a little flustered when she is suddenly faced with something like a test." Superintendent Zhang could not continue. Yun Chujio's indifferent appearance on the shadow stone did not seem to have anything to do with fluster. Chapter 55-59 The waterside pavilion of the lower courtyard. Superintendent Cai's expression became even colder. "What do you plan to do? I know a little about her. Her temperament is definitely very different from what you said. It doesn't matter if she's smart, but PM worried that she was also the one who acted out what happened at the Eternal River. If that's the case, then her thoughts are too scary. She has been scheming to enter our 10 Directions Academy. Perhaps she has other motives. In order to prevent the worst from happening, it's better not to accept her." Superintendent Zhang said with some disapproval, "Even if she did it on purpose this time, what happened on the ancient river was definitely not fake. It was a real thunder. Moreover, I have already helped her with the enrollment procedures for the auditing student. She can't go back on her words now, right? Moreover, she is an auditing student and a little girl at the 9th level of the Spirit Extinguisher realm. What motive could she have?" "Alright, since you insist, then I won't say anything. It's best if she keeps to herself. If she really wants something else, then don't be soft-hearted," Superintendent Kai said helplessly. He knew his old friend too well. He was reckless and didn't have many twists and turns in his heart. Otherwise, based on his strength, he wouldn't have been a superintendent all this time. Superintendent Zhang felt that Superintendent Kai was exaggerating. Furthermore, He Xingjia's kindness was indestructible in his heart, so he gave a few perfunctory words and did not take this matter to heart. He did not take it to heart, but Superintendent Kai felt that he could not drag his old friend down because of a little girl, so he made some arrangements in private. He Xingjio did not know that her kindness was in danger. She had been stabilizing her state these days. On this day, the registration for the auditing students was cut off. A person who called himself Lecturer Hua led them to the waterside pavilion in the lower courtyard by boat. Yun Chujio originally thought that there were not many auditing students in the Academy of 10 Directions. However, she realized that her estimation was wrong. There seemed to be at least 2,000 people. This guy counted with his fingers. TSK, just the donation of the Academy of 10 Directions was a huge sum of money. It seemed that no matter what, the education industry was the best to make money. This guy suddenly had an idea. If there was a chance, she would also set up a few academies. The money would definitely be rolling in. On the boat, Yun Chujio and the other three naturally received a lot of disdainful and inquisitive gazes. Although Ding Wenru and the other two were still a little uncomfortable, they were much better than before. It was probably because they were used to it. As for Hei Shinjio, she had never cared about such things. At this moment, she was wondering if there were any fish in the lake and how it tasted. The distance between the Windfall Pavilion and the waterside pavilion of the lower courtyard was not too far. In less than an hour, they arrived at the waterside pavilion of the lower courtyard. There were still many guards guarding the dock. After walking for about 15 minutes, they saw the lower courtyard of the 10 Directions Academy under the shade of the green trees. Yun Chujio originally thought that the lower house was prepared for them, but she did not expect to see Han Binger and the others as soon as she entered the lower house. Could it be that she had thought wrongly? All the new students were in the lower house, or was there another rule? Just as she was puzzled, Instructor Hua said, "Stand behind the corresponding signboard according to your spiritual roots. After that, the older students will naturally lead you to go through the procedures for the new students." Yun Chujio thought of the fire spiritual roots registered on her identity document and could only look at the sign for the mutated spiritual roots. She followed Ding Wenru and the other two to stand behind the sign for the fire element. Yun Chujio saw that the official students who were not far from them were also queuing according to their department. She guessed that the lower house of the 10 Directions Academy was teaching according to different spiritual roots. Chapter 5560 Missed the Gigolo. Fellow juniors, I am Tao Quan. I am your senior. I will lead you to go through the relevant procedures. Yun Chujio looked towards the source of the voice. The person who spoke was a young man. He had handsome features and a perfect smile on his face. Upon closer inspection, there was a faint hint of flirtation. Many women revealed a hint of shyness on their faces. Even Ding Wenru's face turned red. This senior Tao's smile was really a little flirtatious. There were a few older students standing beside Tao Quan. Tao Quan introduced them one by one, then led the group to the fire department. After entering the fire department, Yun Chujio found that the students she met were wearing two kinds of clothes. It was probably to distinguish between formal students and audit students. Tao Quan led the group to go through the corresponding procedures for the new students. It was nothing more than distributing some materials, allocating dormitories and arranging courses. Yun Chujio really wanted to have a separate dormitory, but there were too many people in the lower academy, so they could only have one room for 4 people. She had to share a dormitory with Ding Wenru and the others. When the 4 of them arrived at the dormitory, Ding Wenru said excitedly, "Qingqing, this is great. I thought I would have to separate from you after entering the academy. I didn't expect that not only do we belong to the same department, but we are also in the same dormitory. This is great." Ding Wenru felt that it was really wise for the lower academy to divide the departments according to their spiritual roots. If they were to divide the departments according to other criteria, wouldn't she be unable to rely on others? Gu Liani and Qin Linglong were also very happy. They felt that with Yun Chujio by their side they would have a backbone. Hei Shinjio gave a few perfunctory sentences. This fellow was a little worried. She was a thunder-type spiritual root, but now she was forced to choose the fire type. She was afraid that the days in the future would be difficult. However, if she changed her element now, her identity would be exposed. Moreover, her previous good-natured character would probably collapse. Forget it, let's wait and see. Qingqing, let's change our clothes and go out for a walk. Let's familiarize ourselves with the environment first, Gu Liani said excitedly. Yun Chujio also wanted to go for a walk. She immediately nodded and agreed. The 4 of them left the dormitory together. Just as they reached the entrance of the courtyard, they heard someone grumble, "How unlucky to be neighbors with the 4 of Vu trash." Yun Chujio looked at the person who spoke and the 3 people standing beside her. She thought to herself, enemies are bound to meet on a narrow road. Aren't these the 4 idiots who don't have big boobs and brains? Yun Chujio ignored them and pretended not to hear anything. Ding Wenru and the other 2 saw that Yun Chujio didn't respond, so they also walked over without looking away. The person saw that Yun Chujio and the others didn't say anything and thought that they were afraid. He curled his lips and said, "At least you know what's good for you. If you dare to provoke us, it'll make you suffer." After walking for a distance, Ding Wenru said hatefully, Bah. What the hell? No matter how powerful you are, you're still an audit student like us. What's there to be proud of? Yun Chujio curled the corners of her lips and didn't say anything. Such a childish piece of trash was no longer of interest to her. She was starting to miss the gigolo. After arriving at the Divine Inspiration continent, the voice transmission talismans she had brought earlier could no longer be used. Therefore she had no way to contact D. Biming's counterpart, D. Biming, and he had no way to contact her. It was really a mistake. She didn't know how long it would be before she could meet her gigolo. The days without gigolo were especially difficult. Ching Ching, the canteen is in front. Let's go in and take a look, Ding Wenru said excitedly. Hey Shinjio, who had a disappointed look just a moment ago, immediately brought Ding Wenru and the other two to the canteen. It was not difficult. Cough cough, it didn't exist. Chapter 55-61. The canteen. Heard Yun Chujio entered the canteen and saw a dazzling array of delicacies. She immediately forgot about the little miss she had just now. Although these delicacies cost spirit stones to buy, Hei Shinjio was not short of money. She bought a huge pile of them in one go, which attracted the odd job workers and other students to cast sidelong glances at her. The four of them found an empty table and started to eat. Hei Shinjio was full of smiles. No wonder everyone wanted to enter the 10 Directions Academy. The canteen was worth it, not to mention others. While the four of them were eating enthusiastically, someone quarreled over a fish. I ordered this braised snow sponge fish first. Why didn't you sell it to him? A short fat man said indignantly. He was about to pay the money, but the handyman sold the fish to someone later. It was too much. The handyman in the canteen said indifferently, because he is an official student, and you are an auditing student. The short and fat man's face suddenly stiffened. What do you mean? The handyman didn't say anything. He hit the hook nose of the fish and said arrogantly, what do you mean? It's a literal meaning. As everyone knows, in the 10 Directions Academy, whether it's resources or other things, official students have priority over the listening students. This is the rule of the 10 Directions Academy. If you are not convinced, you can get out of the 10 Directions Academy. The short and fat man's expression suddenly became ugly. He wanted to say something, but one of his companions dragged him away. The hooked nose twitched his lips and returned to his seat with a tray. The people sitting at the same table with him were all dressed in formal academy uniforms. They started mocking him. Ingliang, why are you wasting your breath with that trash? If he dares to provoke you, just let him learn his lesson. That's right. Don't those listening students only have a little money in their families? In the outside world we might still be afraid of their family's power, but in the 10 Directions Academy, they have to tuck their tails between their legs and behave themselves. That's right. Even if those students have a powerful family based on their talent, they will definitely not be favored at home. What else can they do? There were a few other students sitting around them. Although they looked very dissatisfied, no one dared to say anything. Yun Chujio frowned slightly. It seemed that in the 10 Directions Academy, the status of the official students and the students were worlds apart. Since no one spoke up, the hawk-nosed table quickly began to talk about other things. Have you heard that one of the new students of this batch has directly entered the upper? Of course I've heard about it. Such explosive news has long spread throughout the entire 10 Directions Academy. That freshman is extremely talented. It is said that he has a mutated ice spirit root. In the 5 rounds of assessment he is always at the top of the list. In each round his results far surpass that of the second place. He is simply a heaven-gifted genius. TSK, not only is he gifted but he also has the looks of a dragon and a phoenix. I reckon that many beautiful juniors will take the initiative to approach him. Hearing their conversation, Yun Chujio's chopsticks paused. Mutated ice spirit root? It had the same spirit root as the gigolo? However, that person was definitely not a gigolo. Based on the cultivation level of the gigolo, there was no need for him to come here. Moreover, if the Divine Devil Hall knew that the gigolo was in the 10 Directions Academy, they would not be so quiet. Yun Chujio thought of D. Biming and could not help but feel a little down. Hence, she turned her anger into appetite and continued to eat. Chapter 55-62. Law Teaching Hall. After eating, Yun Chujio and the other 3 walked around the lower house. However, because the lower house occupied a large area, they only walked around a part of it. The next morning, the 4 of them had breakfast and went to the Fire Element Law Teaching Hall. The Fire Element Law Teaching Hall was very spacious and could accommodate up to 1,000 people. The law teaching hall was divided into 3 areas. At the front was the lecturer's podium, followed by the official meditation venue, and at the back was the listening students' meditation venue. Yun Chujio sighed in her heart. The treatment of the official students and the listening students was really different. There were many older students in the teaching hall who were responsible for maintaining order, and Tao Quan was among them. Yun Chujio took a closer look and found that the clothes of Tao Quan and the others were slightly different from her own. There was a word law embroidered on their sleeves. It was estimated that these people were like the modern student union, they helped the academy maintain order or did some chores. However, Tao Quan and the others were only responsible for listening to the students. There were other senior students on the official side to maintain order. When Yun Chujio was looking around, she felt a few hostile gazes. Among them, there were a few neighbors who did not have big boobs or good brains. The other one was Fan Chi, Bai Yuchen's lackey. Fan Chi looked at Yun Chujio with disdain and hatred. He hadn't forgotten what had happened at Rocky Mountain. If it weren't for this stupid girl shouting and taking the lead to run forward, he might have been able to force Han Binger into submission and find an opportunity to teach her a lesson. Yun Chujio pretended not to see Fan Kai's gaze. She wasn't in the mood to abuse him. Of course, if someone wasn't afraid of death and insisted on moving forward, she would fulfill his wish. The students came in one after another. Due to the older students maintaining order, the teaching hall was relatively quiet. When a lecturer surnamed Ouyang came in, the huge teaching hall suddenly became silent. Lecturer Ouyang introduced himself first and then said, "I respect the rules the most. If any student does not abide by the rules, I will not let them off easily. Since you have entered the 10 Directions Academy, you are naturally the best among your peers. I hope you can cultivate steadily and strive to enter the middle and even the upper house. In addition, I have a few words for the listening students. All of you listen carefully. You can ignore the lecture and even go to sleep, but if I find out that anyone has broken the classroom order, I will not be lenient. Also, even if you are a bystander, the 50 people who are ranked at the back of the exam will be eliminated. If you are not afraid of losing face in your family, you can go ahead and waste your time." Yun Chujio felt that the way lecturer Ouyang looked at the bystanders was like looking at trash. This fellow was more or less unhappy in his heart. He was a teacher, so he had to preach and receive knowledge to resolve doubts. It was really displeasing that he treated the students so differently. There were many students who had the same thoughts as her, but no one dared to say anything. After all, they had spent a huge donation fee to become the 10 Directions Academy students. If they got into trouble and were expelled, their families would not forgive them. Lecturer Ouyang paused for a moment and then said, "I will first take a random check of your standards, and then proceed with the lecture." Lecturer Ouyang opened the jade slip with the name of the student and glanced at it. "Fan Chi, come to the front." Fan Chi did not expect lecturer Ouyang to spot him. He stood up in a panic and walked to the podium. Chapter 5563 must be an illusion. Lecturer Ouyang's attitude towards Fan Chi was not bad. "Release your spiritual beast and let me see your level." Fan Chi hurriedly summoned his spiritual beast. It was a majestic spiritual fire lion. If one looked closely, one could see that the left front claw of the fire lion had a faint sign of materializing. Lecturer Ouyang nodded. "It's not bad. If you cultivate diligently, this toe will materialize within 3 months. Fan Chi immediately nodded with some trepidation, indicating that he would definitely cultivate diligently. Lecturer Ouyang had him go down and check on a few more people. They were all official students, so he was basically satisfied. He frowned and decided to check on one of the spectating students. He glanced at the jade slip and said, "Yan Qingqing?" Hey Xinjiu, who was wandering in her mind, she must be hallucinating. There were so many people here. How could she be so unlucky to pick her name? It must be an illusion. Ding Wenru tugged at Yun Chujio's sleeve and complained in her heart. Did she forget her new name? Why isn't she going up? Yun Chujio had no choice but to bite the bullet and stand up. Then she walked to the podium. This fellow's heart was filled with misery. Release the spiritual beast. She could only release the Gowei Batsao, alright? She didn't know where the damned Gowei Batsao had taken the Dehua. Otherwise she could have used Dehua to deal with it. Gowei Batsao shook its leaves. Tiske. What's wrong with it? Can't it see people? It was still the same saying. Once the Gowei Batsao appeared, who would contend with it? Lecturer Ouyang looked at Yun Chujio with a displeased gaze. Level 9 of Spirit Extinguisher? Wasn't this too low? Even the auditing students were at least at level 3 of Divine Revelation. No matter how bad it was, it should not be lower than level 2 of divine revelation. How did this Yen Qingqing get in? Could it be that her background was very strong? Yen. There was no big force in the divine enlightenment continent with the surname of Yen? Lecturer Ouyang saw that Yun Chujio did not make any move and said with an ugly expression, "What are you still standing there for? Hurry up and release your spirit beast." Ouyang, Lecturer Ouyang, I've long heard of your name. PM's so excited to see you alive today. Before Hei Xingjiu could finish her sentence, she rolled her eyes and fainted. Lecturer Ouyang. What did he mean by seeing her alive? However, was his fame already so great? How could he make this auditing student so excited that she fainted? Due to some subtle psychology, teacher Ouyang did not get angry and asked someone to carry Yun Chujio off the stage. Yun Chujio woke up as soon as she was carried off the stage. This guy gave himself a thumbs up. Fortunately, she was smart. Otherwise, it would have been difficult for her. If she released the Gowei Batsao, her identity would be exposed. After all, only her spiritual beast was a Gowei Batsao. Moreover, even if she was not afraid of exposing her identity, the Gowei Batsao could not be solidified because this guy was not a spiritual beast at all. This fellow had a premonition that her days in the 10 Directions Academy would not be easy. Yun Chujio weakly returned to her seat and then continued to listen to the lecture with an excited look. Lecturer Ouyang saw Yun Chujio's excited look and swallowed the scolding that was on the tip of his tongue. Forget it, she was just an audit student. No matter how she managed to sneak in, she would definitely pack up and leave after the big exam. He did not need to waste his energy on such a trash. You're tuning in to the Han Li's Wuxia Chronicles YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.